good evening, good night to all of you out there, all of you around the world. Today, we are joined by Patrick Jones, a fantastic art instructor that you guys might have seen before on Proko many times. Patrick's here to support a course that he has with us that came out recently. There are a bunch of people who submitted some work that he's going to be critiquing. We'll be talking about some of the things that you guys can learn from some of the course, and he'll be just sharing his wisdom with us. For those of you guys who don't know, we do currently have a live sale that's going right now on Proko, where you can get Patrick's course for 20% off. That's not just for Patrick's course, but Patrick's course is a very good one that you might want to get from that. Everything is 20% off right now. That's brush packs, courses. That'll be anything that you're really looking for on Proko right now. So go give it a check. There's going to be a link in the description, on here in the chat, and this one that's on screen right now. But enough about me and what we're doing. Let's talk to Patrick Jones. Patrick Jones, how's it going? Oh, he's so busy. He's so focused.
Stephen, I'm getting double echoes. I'm hearing the stream.
Do you have the stream open somewhere else?
That's what I'm looking for. Why does it happen? Why does it happen?
It might still be up somewhere.
There it is. There it is. Oh man, there's always a glitch, isn't there? There's always something we didn't see.
There was this look on your face of you searching for something.
It was a real Tucker. It was Tucker Carlson moment. Oh no!
I'd love to hear from you guys here in the chat, where you guys are watching from right now, the time it is where you guys are. We'd appreciate your guys' time being here. If you guys do have any questions or anything about Patrick's process or anything that he teaches throughout it, please drop them in that chat. Patrick, what will you be sharing with us today?
Folly to begin with. And I might have to clip that first part there, Stephen. There's all kinds of things popping up on the screen here. I'm trying to get rid of them.
Oh, it's okay. I'm not showing your screen right now while you're sorting it out. You're fine.
Great.
Nobody knows.
Brilliant. All right, we're good, because I just saw another thing. All right, we're good. I think I've sorted everything out. And yeah, thanks, Stephen, for the introduction twice. It was a double thing, but I got it now. Oh, it's two Stephens better than one. I'd love to be two Patricks. I got so much to do. The other Patrick could have been sorting that, but there we go. Anyway,
some extra help on the thing.
Yeah. All right. Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. And Stephen, I'm ready to go. If we have,
I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Well, do we have questions to begin with, and then I'll get into it, because I've got the assignments here.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like there's not any questions yet. Someone did say my volume was kind of quiet, so I'm going to see if I can sort that out.
Yeah, I thought that
you guys
too.
Let me know. I think it should be on the right thing. Let me see here. In the meantime, please feel free to go ahead and kind of dig into it a little bit, and I'll talk a little bit here and there. And if you guys still hear me much quieter, I'll go ahead and keep trying to increase the volume.
All right. Okay. Well, I'll get started. So I've had a look at the assignments. I downloaded what I could an hour ago. If there's any more since then, I haven't seen them. So let's see what we have. Now, I was looking through a lot of stuff. And if the person that did this can let me know if they're in the room, because I'm trying to remember, is this from my study sheets or is it from the wizardry course? I'm not too sure, but I'll go through them and have a look.
I think I'm probably still a little bit lower volume. Patrick, let me know if I start like blowing you out with too much volume or something. But there is one question here from somebody that says, is Patrick ever going to release a course for drawing the male fantasy figure? I think
I hinted at it, didn't I? I am drawing like crazy. I'm just starting a Anatomy of Style online course this Saturday. I have them about 3 times a year.
Ooh.
And I've had a student come in, Lucas, if you're watching. I think Lucas is submitted here. And he is drawing like a demon. And it put me to shame. And so, hey, last time we talked, Stephen, I was building that studio and got it built. And I got the sign out there. Mike,
it is a good way. I'm gonna make this full screen so everyone else can see it. Look at this sign that he's got back there.
Yeah. Oh, did you see that?
Look at that back there.
We were talking about this. I got another two and put them down. I'll have to put a plug on Instagram for the great company that sent me that. They're here in Australia. So lucky in Australia. There's so many great things happening here now. And the Rode mics are from Australia. There's a lot of stuff I didn't know about.
You
Bizarre
fancy
magazine.
people.
Yeah, there's fancy stuff here. For such a small population, there's a lot going on. But that's enough about the travelogue. I have been looking for these study sheets here to see if these are from that or from the wizardry course. But I don't want to hold the whole production up, but I'm going through here. Yes, I was talking about Lucas. So I've been drawing like crazy, and I was trying to get footage of that as well. But I've brought up a lot of footage from the wizardry course that I can show. I'm rambling like a crazy person. But I thought this was my drawing. It was so well done. That sounds like narcissism, doesn't it? But I thought that was my
No,
drawing.
I think it's just about your expectation. Usually, someone learning isn't going to be able to fully mimic the style of
Yeah.
the instructor. You know, it's not what you expect.
It's really amazing. So if the person that did this is in the room, let me know. And I'm wondering if it is Lucas, who's been putting so much mileage in. It's amazing what he's done. And I think this is Marco. It could be. So I'm seeing a lot of study sheet stuff here. Let me have a quick look in here. Guys, I can't tell you how important it was when I first made marks on a piece of paper. And I don't mean drawing marks, I mean notes like this. Once you make a note and point to that thing, whatever that is, the patella in this instance, it's just a massive learning experience. And it just digs in deep. It just never leaves. It's amazing. Just to simply do that, incredible. You'll never forget it. Well, you might for a couple of times, but really, that's the way to implant it in your mind. The tibial nose, there it is. Put it in, point to it. It gives you time to slow down and process the thought. Whereas if you're just drawing like a crazy, watching the clock person, it really just goes out the other ear. But this kind of slowing down to actually acknowledge what you've done, a massive thing. I can't stress it enough. And this in the corner. Also, what it'll do is it'll give you a little pause, a little bit of time not to burn out on the drawing. Draw, let's see, straight lines, hip bell, okay, and draw the curves. So the artist that did this is making their own notes now, and I encourage that as well. So I put my notes in, you put your notes in. You can't lose. You can't lose that stuff.
Yeah, I think
So
that's a classic idea, right? Like taking the time to go and write something that you want to remember instead of
yeah,
just like thinking, yeah, I'm gonna remember it.
yeah. I think we all learn different ways, Stephen. But for me, putting it in a separate notebook was pointless because I didn't have to
Mm.
go and find the notebook. So put it on the actual drawing. And I think a lot of students are frightened to mess up their drawing with notes. I'll tell you, this is mileage. The minute you give yourself the freedom to say this is mileage rather than this is a drawing that you're going to show anyone, the sky's the limit. I have been drawing so much better and learning so much more over this last week. And you think, what more? Because I've been doing this for years and years. There's always more. There's always that little moment. This bulge. Oh, look how it bulges with the arm in this position. Incredible. You can't do that
Hmm.
with 4 drawings. It has to be hundreds and hundreds of drawings.
Absolutely. So two things here from the chat right now. So
Yeah.
Wolf Knightley pointed out that the thing that you said about that person's work was actually a really good compliment. That you thought it was yours.
Yeah, I did.
And then, yeah, like honestly, I think that's a flattering thing for the person to receive. And then,
Yeah.
what's his name here? Toji's Worm says, or asks rather, will we be able to review any of the male anatomies from Patrick?
Review. What does that mean? Will you be able to review it? What does that mean?
I'm not sure if they mean something like you sharing some male anatomy drawings in a course, or if they mean just seeing some of your work.
Oh, I see.
But
Okay.
let's see if like when it'll be on delay a little bit, but we'll see
Okay.
if they follow up with any more further things.
All right. Well, the stuff I have up on screen here is all on Proko at the moment, and there's 20% off if I'm not mistaken.
It's true. You're doing my job for me, Patrick.
It's probably in here where you want to look, the collected study sheets, which is basically the study sheets that were taken from, I think, 3 books to make it a simpler thing to go and look at, rather than look at steps. If you're in a life draw class, for instance, this would be the book to download from Proko, and you'll find the anatomy in here. But I don't really talk about dry anatomy. I talk about structure based on anatomy, so it's simpler. I mean, if you look at this drawing here, it's almost impossible to describe how it was done without breaking it down into smaller components. A
Hmm.
big thing, then a small thing inside another small thing inside another small thing. And if I was to say, I'm going to do this drawing, another drawing like this, it would feel a little bit overwhelming. And you start to lose your mojo because you start to panic and go, I can't recreate that magic again because you're seeing it all in one big hit. And then you've got to calm down and say, look, it was a simple thing on top of a simple thing. And then it got simple, simple all the way until you finally got it. You get all the way down to this wrist, all the way down to those fingers. It's all doable if you break it down.
Hmm.
So maybe the student was talking about this. It couldn't be simpler, but it couldn't be less gestural. But we still need it. We still need to understand these parts. This, once again, looks complicated, but it's actually a very simple form of anatomy rather than if I pull an anatomy book off the shelf or even Bridgman off the shelf. It's just overwhelming. It's just too much knowledge coming at you at once. Whereas we break it down into something simpler. I mean, this is getting into the complex here, but it's still not that gnarly business. There's no render in it to confuse. It's got the parts all in there. And I would say anyone taking my courses, if anything gets overwhelming, just go back to the first 5 minutes ago. The first 5 minutes at the start, whatever that was, whatever that simple shape was, and do that. Or even if I bring this down to the bottom of the screen, just concentrate on that top part. Or even there, I'm pointing down at the bottom of the screen here, by the way, just the trapezius and the head, and just work on that 20 times until you've got it. Like you can see here that I haven't put the rest of that leg in because we're basically concentrating here. And the face is just simple because we're working on the torso. So I think when students are taking on too much, it overburdens and they burn out. But I like
I
to
got you.
ghost as well. I like to ghost a hand, for instance, and then leave it and go and work on another hand in more detail. If you work on both hands, you might once again burn out and go, I can't do another drawing today. So there's the simple there, simple to complex, but it was simple all the way to that. So these are the study sheets for that student that was talking there. And this might be what you need when you really don't understand the anatomy and
Mhm.
you're at the simple stage of gesture, which
Do you do you think
is
that
not
there will be a time when there's like a Patrick Jones male anatomy course or
for
something that
sure.
focuses purely on the male anatomy?
Absolutely. At the minute,
Okay.
we can do the big reveal here, Stephen. I've been so enamored with Proko. You've been so good to me. And
Oh,
especially you, Stephen. You know, when I went down there and made a klutz of myself, you really supported me. I thought this guy's got my back. He's my wingman here. You can
you've
see that
never
I'm
made a klutz
nervous.
of yourself.
I was
I
nervous.
refuse to believe it.
Nervous and jet lagged. I was overwhelmed. I was standing there with Christian like this in the doorway. I go, do these guys know who I am? I don't think Christian's told them who I am. And he's got called the security. So yeah, I was nervous as hell. But you had my back, Stephen. So I love being in the Proko team. It's just fantastic. And so what I'm working on at the minute is kind of monkey brain stuff. I went down to this wonderful new studio that I've built. I'll have you
Mhm.
a quick look at it. No, wait, too much diversion there. But I went down there and I had it all built and it was all wonderful. And I got a little bit nervous. I went, it's all so good. And now I've got to do the work. And I
Mm.
didn't want to touch anything because it was all so pristine. I'd spent like procrastinated 2 hours putting the cables underneath the drawing board so I couldn't see them. And if I saw one little string hanging out, oh, I've got to do that first. You know, you
Yeah.
procrastinate all day long.
You find all the reasons not to do the actual
All
work.
all the reasons. And then finally I made a mark on paper. And I think that's all you need to do. Just make any mark at all. And I was off and running. And so I've got two things in mind. One of them is how to draw the easy way. I'm showing you here
Hmm.
really an intermediate or an advanced drawing here. So I'm thinking, how can I break it down into simple like this? Look how simple that's become in there with a bit of complex in there. So I've got two ideas at the moment. How to draw the easy way, my easiest way I can possibly draw. And I don't know, I think I've got 30 hours in the bag, nothing voiced over, but I'm going to release it on Proko, just like I did with the wizardry course. Another
Wonderful.
one is, yeah. And another one, well, if I'm very bold to say that, if you want, if you would like to, if you guys want to be on board with that, that's the idea. And also at the same time, character development. And I'm
Mm,
trying to think, there's cartoon character development, and then there's sort of serious cartoon development, like for concept art and for comic books, like grown up comic books. So that's what I'm focusing on mostly, those
okay.
two things. But yeah, basically simple to complex is the way to go every time. And the male course will come. But what I like to do is see how I'm in the world of female figures here. That's a very particular flow world. It's got all the shapes to it that are like rolling hills. And if I was to break in there and start doing some male characters, it would kill the beauty of that. So I like to roll with the female figure all the way through and
I
then
got you.
start with the male figure and run all the way through. So I can give the best of that rocky landscape of the male figure. So that'll be the third thing, will be the male figure. But
Okay.
I've got some of that stuff already
I
all over the
I
place.
did start a poll here, Patrick. I asked
Right?
which would you like from Patrick, and I asked if they would like how to draw the easy way or character development. And so
Whoa,
far it's 60-40. 20 votes, 22 votes so far. Saying, another vote for how to draw the easy way. It's
the
a
easy
fairly
way.
even split so far, but with character development barely edging it out.
All right, so the character development is more, it's more popular, the idea.
At least currently. We'll see. Wolf
Okay.
Wolf Knightley again in the chat says, "Why do we have to pick just one? They both sound good." I agree.
Will's my kind of guy. That's enterprising. Yeah. Well, okay. I hope that answered the question anyway. But I'm looking through study sheets here at the moment. Like I
Mhm.
say, they're all on Proko. And if you just work on one thing at a time, like I'm working on the gluteus, like I say, once you're in the flow, like I'm working it, this was from life. So I remember Fiona, some models have great kind of positions and poses that you hit.
Mm.
And Fiona was really great at hitting the hip poses. So I used her for that. And I remember this day very well. But look at how beautiful it can be with less. Do you see that? With the very minimum you get real beauty in there. But you've got to learn these shapes first. So there's tons of this in the wizardry course. There's absolutely tons of it. And like I say, I'm monkey brain at the minute. Sorry, what was edging out? Was it the character design or was it the draw the easy way?
Now it's split with how to draw the easy way winning just a little bit. I think people are realizing there's actual stakes to this vote right now, and so they're coming through to try to juice the numbers to the thing that they want.
There is stakes to it. I've got the keys to the
Yeah.
studio downstairs, and I'm still going. Where am I going next? What's going to be the first thing off the rack here?
Yeah.
All right.
You guys get to help decide, like lead Patrick where you want him. There's one question here. So from Camilo in the chat, they were asking, how do we submit work for the critique? These were submitted on the course page of Patrick's newest course, that being the fantasy figure drawing wizardry. Correct, Patrick?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, you guys can find that over here on this link that you see on the screen. And then there's a link that's in the chat and in the description where you guys can find out more about that course. But yeah, these were submitted. It's not that we're going to take some more right now.
Yeah.
The ones that we have already been collected will be all of those that we'll be critiquing today. But yeah, that's where you guys can submit for anything like this in the future.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm happy to come back anytime. Like I've always said, I just love coming on here and
Yeah,
talking to the future.
we'd love to have you again more.
Oh, great. Well, there you go.
Every,
Let's call that a handshake. Let's call that right now.
There's another question from, and I swear this is their actual name on here, not me just forgetting it, but from
Yeah.
some person. They asked, is this course like Rob Tyner's book, Figure Drawing Without a Model? I'm just trying to get the gist of how anatomy is being taught. So you have I would say, a unique way of teaching anatomy, depending on the different presentation, whether it's in your books or in your video.
Yeah, I think everyone does to some degree. It depends, I've been doing it for so long, it has to be a unique spin on it. But I don't know that book. I love books, so I'd have to look that book up. Is it something
Yeah.
from Proko or is it something from
I
Amazon?
I've I don't think I have heard that name before.
I haven't either.
Maybe it's one of those things where like if you saw art from the person, you'd suddenly realize, ah, yeah, it's that guy. But I
Oh
got
yeah.
nothing right now.
Yeah, there's some great artists on the internet right now. Like Lane Draws, I was looking at a moment ago. I think he's associated with Proko too.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that
it's
right?
Lane Brown. Lane is great.
Oh man, what a brilliant artist! And there's a
Yeah,
great example of mileage because I remember when his drawings were a bit wonky, and now
that's fair.
that's a long time ago, right? And I think he acknowledged that. I think he showed his wonky drawings from years ago, and then the progression. And they were well, everyone does wonky drawings at the beginning, but they're
It's true.
amazing.
We still get
They're
some now.
amazing, and I think that's what it is. If my courses are unique in one way, is that if I make a boo boo, I keep it in and I explain why it's a boo boo, and then we can learn from that. You can learn from mistakes much easier than you can from successes because it's all flash, and then it makes people feel a little bad as well. They'll say, "Oh, well, I'll never be as good as this person." And I remember
Mm.
that from a long time ago when I started teaching. I remember I lost half the class except for a couple of really brilliant students. I says, "Where's the class?" And she said to me, the best student in the class said to me, they said, "What's the point? We'll never be able to draw like him." And it
Oh,
really
that's
hurt
not
me.
true.
Yeah,
It just takes some time, you know.
it just
The
takes
fact
time.
that when you see someone making art at a very high level, the only thing that that means for you is it has been done by somebody else, so it is doable.
Yeah, absolutely. And it taught me one thing. Being a teacher really teaches you how to teach better as well. It taught me to break things down into a more simple idea. And I think what it was also, there was a little bit of ego involved. I wanted to make sure it was really great drawings to inspire them, but it did the opposite. It made them feel like they couldn't achieve it.
Mm.
So that's why in these courses, I go back to that time and go, you weren't a great teacher then, Pedri, because you were too flash. You weren't really, you weren't being sophisticated enough, which means
Mm.
make things simpler and simpler again and simpler all the way down to the point where it is the ultimate sophistication, like Leonardo da Vinci said, simplicity. If you
Mhm.
can't teach something simple, then you don't know the complexity of it yourself. So that's
I
what I
very much
learned
agree.
from that. Yeah. Once again, here, brilliant stuff. If the artist is in here, like I say, that's so close to my drawings. It's incredible. Really fantastic
We do
stuff.
have. There was one person in here who did say that some of their work was submitted for this. We'll see. I asked them to speak up when they see their work on screen, but they're the only
Okay.
person who said that they were here for this.
All
Um,
right.
just as a follow up, I think for your anatomy course, one thing I do think that people should know about these your book, your courses in general. One
Yeah.
thing that you do really well, I think, is giving people a mnemonic device
Yeah.
for learning like a landmark and things rather than having it to be that you have to know the name of every single muscle and every single tendon. Those things are in there also, but if you're
Yeah.
just a person who just wants to know this thing's shaped like a kite, you're going to go into that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, there's a million mnemonics that I love. I always love the butterfly, the upside down butterfly, to give you this
Mhm.
shape. You know, once I had that in my head, and then you've got to imagine it like a cushion as well, that there's an underneath to it, like this. I mean, you can't get simpler than that. There's your bottom of your top of your coccyx, your coccyx, your tailbone, right there, coming to the sacrum. And if you just think of those things around the front here, just basically on level with that, as you really add crest around the other side. So knowing how to see around corners is fantastic as well. I learned a lot from great teachers like Steve Houston, who thought of a sailboat like this, those ones where you hang on. And that was really helped me a lot. I would do a little bit of critique here and say, can you bring the muzzle out a little bit more like that? And then add your lips onto it like this. And it just gives it that idea that there's teeth in there. If you
Mhm.
come down too fast like this and you put a nose on like that, you can see like it's like a bird person. See that? So
Yeah.
it's a weird little thing where the lips never come out beyond this point. So just that. So this artist has done such a great job on interpreting what I've shown here that it gives me great pride to see that it actually works. The teaching
Mm.
of this has worked to this degree where a student can get this advanced so quickly. If you can come up here and bring those ears up, that might help as well. But this is minutia now. This is tiny stuff. Then that goes in behind the sternocleidomastoid, for instance, and then that goes behind this. So just little motions like this, that alone, look how simple that is to get you, whoops, to get you a little face. See that? You could spend 20 hours learning how to draw the head, and it won't have as much in it for you to remember as this will. That'll take you so far right
Hmm.
there. Where 20, 30 hours of drawing the head in detail, really the first 2 minutes are the most important thing, is getting that gestural idea in. And then the design of it, come up high for the female head and you've already got more majesty to it. Things like that. And then you can break this nose down into that and start getting the male figure just by doing that. There's a million ideas and ways to do this that will make it so much easier. I think it was Peck that said a trowel. You'd have to be on the building side to understand that. I have to be on the building side. I went, that's perfect. A trowel, fantastic. There we go. There's our scapula in there. It's a broken one, mind you. I've never seen a trowel with a handle broken like that. You'd throw it, but it stuck with me. That simple little thing. So wonderful stuff. Watch for bubbles though. Watch for double bubbles like this. If you ever see things like that, then oops, I don't know, I'm pressing buttons. Hit the wrong button.
Oh,
Whoops.
sometimes it happens. Happens to the best of us.
If you get double bubbles like this, so there's this and there's that, this kind of thing, then see if you can make one
Mm.
a little longer, like this. That kind of thing. See if you can put a hard edge on maybe a curve, things like that. And watch they don't join too. So just that little area in there. Want to break that up a little bit.
Yeah, I think the one of the things for, like you said, those double bubbles, it'll happen when someone's drawing like an arm muscle,
Yeah.
some other placements like this. It just implies this lack of movement. It's a very static shape.
Yeah. It's a binary thing. It's just on and off. It's bump, bump, bump.
Hmm.
So there's a million things like that. You can see it in basically all of my drawings. That's a pretty good example there of just every line has a different shape, a different thin or thick to it. And every one of those lines is telling a story of some kind. This is telling you that's a hard edge, but it's near the sun. This is telling you that this has got a curve, so there's a muscle attached to that bone to it. I like to peek the clavicle from the back so that you can see the idea of the front. And you can see it from the back as well. And it's often lost. That little moment, the edginess of it, and a lost line, all these things, that hard edge right on a curve. Doing the opposite is so fresh. You see a curve, put a straight on it, see what happens next. All that stuff, and thinking of the whole thing holistically, just gets a flow to it that it just can't be done. This stuff here is perfect to get you there, but that stuff there is the end result of it. And if you're not designing it, then you're not going to get there. And the way to
Hmm.
design is to understand what's underneath. Simple to complex. Simple to complex. All the time. That's very complex right there. For those guys that really want to go in deep. I wrote these books for life. You might go and say, wow, I won't be able to do this for 5 years. Well, you've got the book for the rest of your life. You can do this. Do you know what I mean? You can keep on going until you do get it. And you can see that the artists that have submitted work there are getting it already, which is a brilliant compliment to me. Thank you very much. Look how
You
that simple that
nailing
leg
it.
is. Yeah, look how simple this leg is on the right, and then this leg on the left, and then that leg in the middle. Start here, go there, end here. In book form, of course, you've got a lot of there's a lot of steps in between that we're missing. The in betweens, as we say in animation, are missing there, but they're not missing in the wizardry course because you see every single tiny iteration to get there, and that's why
Hmm.
recorded content is just so valuable. I wish I had it when I was younger. I tell you,
Me
so
too, Patrick. It
fantastic.
it's I it's been such a big advancement, I think, for teaching art in general, for people to be able to see all of the mistakes, the commentary, the process, not just the stuff that's like edited down, showing
Yeah,
the peak performance. Um,
Yeah,
just a note for that one. It looks like that one was from an artist named Marco Sordi was the
yeah,
person.
yeah. Marco's
And Marco, I think this is also Marco, the one that we've got
yeah,
here.
yeah. Marco's
So
terrific. Marco's basically gone through all of my books as far as I can see, and really put the mileage in. And it's amazing stuff. And I mean, he's really found the style now in all this stuff. And also, Rachel and Melanie were two long students of mine, long, long time students. They're now with me on a podcast, The Art Agents, where we talk about art.
mm,
But they're also working with Proko. They're doing critiques on Proko. If you don't
yeah,
know them,
it.
Stephen,
Oh no,
Rachel
no,
and
I've never gotten to meet them, but I've seen
yeah.
them doing the comments and everything.
Oh, have
If you
you?
guys want to find out, if you guys want to find out more about Patrick's Art Agents podcast, you guys should go to this thing that I have on screen right now. That's a little link to Patrick Jones's social media. You guys, I don't know how frequent it is. I just see them come up every once in a while. But you guys can
Yeah.
also go to Patrick's YouTube channel, which is linked in the description, where that does stream out to. It's a good one. It's a good experience.
Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, it's the second Monday of every month. So it's
Okay.
once a month, if we can do it. Sometimes we get a guest that might drop out for various reasons, but I'll usually fill that gap with a lot of guff. I'll go on there and talk instead. So that's what we're trying to do. But Rachel and Melanie, the reason I mentioned them as well, because they're such great artists themselves, did a little bit of critique with Marco on the assignments as well. So they're actually in
Mm.
there, going beyond the Call of Duty. So they'll pop up in a minute. And they did mention something that I would have said too, and that's I'm loving the lost edges in this. I mean, I'm really loving them, but sometimes there's too much of a good thing, and it's kind of lost edges everywhere. And
Can you zoom in
just
a
like
little bit on like a lost edge here for anyone who's not familiar with the idea of a lost edge? Sometimes you'll see like a little line weight change to where something is entirely gone, and it can mean something.
yeah, and it usually means light or when there's a connecting point, which is a perfect place to put it, so that everything doesn't look like this, an arm and a hand and a finger and another finger. I mean, that's all great for comic books and stuff, that's fantastic. But it's just boxes, isn't it? So when we break a line up, we start to put gesture on that. It becomes a beautiful thing for the first point, like this. Then it starts to become something. Once we start doing this, it becomes something nicer. But in between all of that, this is getting very complicated, right? So what we want to do is it's basically a matter of taste where you put a lost edge. But I tend to say, as a starting point, find out where your light source is. I usually use 1 p.m. because I think that's the best light. It's a
Mm.
chiaroscuro light. And then anything that hits that edge is going to get a lighter line here as opposed to here, which is going to get a darker line. So there's of a lost edge doesn't mean completely vanished. It can mean so softened on that you hardly see it. And that's what's happened here a little bit with Marco. It's a beautiful thing, but once again, there's art in everything else. I love it even with all the lost lines. I think that's a really
Mm.
sfumato feel. Everything feels like a dream. And if that's the intention, then that's great. But I would have said, just like Rachel did later, is, get in there and just find a couple of moments where you get a darker dark. And
Yeah.
Marco's done a really good thing here. He's found the darkest dark and he doesn't go any darker than that. That's not a bad thing. So I would go in there and find those moments like occlusion shadows where flesh meets flesh and just darken those up a little bit. And at the end
Mm.
of the day, like I say, you can keep this in light because it gives you that feeling of a dream in here, and then maybe come down here and darken some stuff up. So I would say that, and on this edge here, maybe a little bit of this, and I would probably just here where it's very soft, maybe peak that eighth rib, seventh and eighth rib down like this, and maybe an overlap. These are just little things that I'm looking at as I go along, but
Mhm.
that's what I would say. It needs just a little bit more of that darkness in there for my
Yeah.
tastes. You got to
Yeah.
always remember it's for my tastes. Uh, that's a lovely
No, I
little
think
colorful.
one
Yeah,
thing
go
that
on.
you were saying earlier with the double bump kind of area, one of the
Yeah,
things that you want in that is for one to be different, where you have the round, like, and then you were talking about having a straight after that.
Yeah.
because then it'll be an oppositional thing. It gives meaning to the other one that
Yeah.
you have the opposite kind of shape. And the same thing happens throughout art where you want to have dark so that the parts where you have light mean something and vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely. Every line should tell a story. Every shade should tell a story. And
Hmm.
like you saw with that really muscular man that I was drawing, it was the whole story was in every darkness, every lightness. Like, look at the difference in storytelling here for this picture on the right here. It's a totally different storytelling experience. But you can see the lost edge right there. This is a junction that's so complicated that I didn't want it in there. I wanted the whole thing to flow and have this beautiful idea to it. That this is once again a romantic idea rather than a defeated muscular man at the end of his tether. This is a whole different story right here. And don't be afraid to use really thick lines when you feel like it, because it shows incredible confidence to just go straight down here and just blur this out. Now, I've used the word blur as if it's going to be soft. It's not soft at all. It's just lacking in detail. And that's a blurred idea right there. And
Hmm.
this is a light idea up here. And look at this once again, sfumato here. It's from Leonardo da Vinci. It means smoky. This sfumato, it's too much. The detail that would have went in here and that connection would have been just too much, and just blur it right out. Blur it right out. And it's not an idea for hiding mistakes, because I know how to draw what's in there. It's all over here on the left to show you how it goes. But that would just be showing off.
Hmm.
Where I want to tell a story with this and draw something really nice. So we learn this stuff to do this stuff. You know, what's over here on the left is very close to what's on the right. But look at the world of difference in learning stuff and then applying that knowledge. It's a whole
Hmm.
world difference. Might as well
Speaking
get
of
you that.
the idea of the smoothness and hardness that you were talking about here, where you have detail and you don't, Tash in the chat says, "Hi guys, I'm in the Proko Basics course. I struggled in
Yeah.
gesture drawing, but as a learner, I've found that the male body is easier for them than the girls' poses.
Yeah.
They asked kind of like why it is that you draw the female form often. I don't know if there's anything else that you want to say about a person finding one type of form harder than the other,
Yeah.
in like a hyper masculine and hyper feminine kind of way.
Yeah. For that very reason. I found out quickly that the male figure was too easy to draw, and I wasn't getting as much gesture out of it because it was too boxy. There wasn't that wonderful hip to oblique out to the chest vase like shape that you can get so easily with gesture. Look at the gestural lines in this. You know, these are 1 minute drawings, and look what you can get out of them. But if I was to do a 1 minute drawing of a male figure, it would kind of look floppy working with this kind of technique because it needs more hard edges to it. So I really didn't enjoy doing it as much. I really enjoy doing the female figure because of that constant flow. It's built for gesture, is what it is. But it doesn't mean you can break the rules. Look, I put hard edges on here like I would put on the male figure and got a whole different world out of it. So for that reason, mostly. Here I'm drawing a male figure and trying to put that femininity into it, that flow. But you can see it goes very androgynous, doesn't it? It's you can't tell if it's a male or a female figure. But yeah, if I want to slow down and take my time, I'll draw a male figure. If I'm full of life and vim, I'll draw a female figure. And that's most of the time. I'm filled with vim most
Yeah,
of the time.
you got vim and vigor in you.
Yeah, I get excited, you know? And I want to draw. I want to draw lots and lots. You can see how it
Mhm.
slows the world down to draw every bump and crevice of the male figure. You can get a figure that's not so muscular, and then you get a little bit of flow in it. But basically, the idea is that I love gesture, and it's
Mm.
already inherent. It's inherent in the female figure, and so I'll draw it more. It's just basically simply that. It doesn't mean you can't get in there and do detail. There it is, all there. But yeah,
Yeah,
if I'm going to paint, I love painting the male figure. That's a whole different
I got
world
you.
because I
Yeah.
know I'm going to be slow. It's going to be a slow process. So I'll really enjoy doing it. Let's have a look in, let's see, oil painting masterclass. Let's have a look. Like I say, all these books are on Proko. So I'll go,
Proko.com/Patrick Jones. 20%
there
off
you
right now.
go. I love drawing the male figure when it's painted because it gives me time to just enjoy the anatomy. but also
Hmm.
to flex that anatomy around. It's not going to be here's an anatomical model. I want to really mess it up. I don't mean to like do it wrong. I
No,
mean,
I got you. Yeah,
I
you
want to
want to
really,
like get in there.
yeah. Well, this is one of my favorite paintings. I did this for Catherine Gillerstrom. She's a Harvard professor living in America and has a lovely home that used to belong to Schreiber, uh, the publishing company. So I love to visit Catherine because it's just another world. It's such a different world than the one I was brought up in. To go and see this American splendor that I've seen in movies so much, but didn't think it really existed, and it does somewhere, some places. And I painted this for Catherine because she's also of Greek heritage, and so she loves the Greek
Mm.
myths. And I really loved painting this because it gave me time to slow down and really work on the anatomy. But the anatomy is flow. You can see how the ribs flow into the serratus. All of this has been redesigned as I painted. All of it. It looks nothing like, well, it's going to resemble a reference. But in minutia, it doesn't resemble it at all because I
Hmm.
have totally redesigned the rhythm of this form. And that takes time. And so it's
Hmm.
for that reason that I draw the female figure more. It means I can get more drawings in and
Yeah.
enjoy it more too. So male figure, I love to paint it,
The female
but
figure is just for the drawing.
I love
I
to
got
draw
you.
the female figure. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I love them both. It depends on time. For less time, more female figures, and just the gestural flow is fabulous. I just love it.
Hmm.
Yeah, for all those
Was
reasons.
that makes sense? So I think the person that we were with last, that was Marco Sordi's work
Yeah.
in the critiques. Was there another of Marco's that you had enjoyed that you wanted to go over at all?
Uh, yeah, I'll have another look in a minute. I'm just looking at the reference because this is one of the few references that were brought in.
I see.
And I love how Marco has made less of this because you get great reference. And this model's fantastic, by the way. This is up from Obscura 29. This is also on Proko. And I think I've bought two professional packs from them I haven't used yet. So I'll use the male pack, I think, for the male course. But this model is off the charts brilliant. She's fantastic. So I would recommend if you're getting a pack, she's the one for this. But look how brilliant all of that anatomy is, and it's too much. So you might get
Mhm.
overwhelmed by it. You might go, "Oh, look, it's all great." And what Marco's done very well here is made less of that. So don't be seduced by it. Think about what is the story you're trying to tell. You know, this flow all the way down to here, and this, and that, and this. See, these are the things that I'm looking at right away are really telling a story more than this, which is not really storytelling. It's more the second act. There's too
Yeah,
much.
it's
There's too much being explained, and we want to get to the final act where they fight the goblins and stuff.
yeah.
So every pose is a story in some way. So I'm looking at the story of how that elbow links to here, like that. No, it's not a story about, like I say, goblins fighting each other, but it's a story of design. It's what is the rhythm of this? And the rhythm for me is always right there in the female figure. It's right there in that invisible connection of these hips all the way through to this leg. This is one of the hardest things, by the way, I take you into the course, is finding how to insert legs into the pelvis. I found that one of the hardest things to really understand when I was starting out. It's really nearly impossible for me to get my head around it, but not anymore because it's all doable once you learn how. Stephen, I talk like a train.
No, 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 no. You're doing magnificently. I also wanted to point out, Patrick, I really like the lighting element in the back of your office now,
Oh
with this
yeah,
nice little motivated light that gives you this little rim light separation. It's a good
oh yeah.
touch.
It's so nice to get a little space. We all started off maybe under the table in the kitchen, and I always made space that was cozy for me. So I liked the kitchen table because it had a cloth on it. It was old fashioned, but it meant I had a little place that no one else could find me, a little peekaboo place, and nobody
Hmm.
could bother me. So it was really a big deal for me to find that place again, and that's why I've developed this little studio. And under the house was a calamity, and Christian was over and he was appalled. I took Christian onto the house. He's like 10 feet tall. He nearly lost his head on the rafters. And so I have to show it to you. I had to design the studio at the peril of doing something awful here. Let's have a look. Oh
Show the
man.
stuff. If you guys haven't
Oh
gotten to look, Patrick did do a lot of work down there in the studio space. It's something I think you've shown a little bit of the process on your socials.
yes.
I don't know if you've posted more than what I've seen because you know the way the socials work now, but it's
Yeah.
great. It's a whole separate room. Look at that light right there.
You should have seen it. And you know when I was at the Proko studio and I went underneath and saw how much work Stan and you obviously Stephen had put into lighting that thing. I mean, there was lights
Hmm.
everywhere. It's like you couldn't
Yeah.
see for lights. And because I've got a studio space here that's basically not much higher than my head, that was a big call getting that light in there.
Yeah.
Uh, but I finally worked it out. I know that looks weird how it is, but
Nope.
it lights it perfectly because there's just out of view. There's another light here, and it just hits it perfectly in that spot.
Hmm.
You should have seen what that was like before I made that. A place that didn't exist, and then it existed. It was astonishing. I astonished myself,
I,
and I did it all while I was sick. I had I
I
had
didn't
long
know that you had been
COVID.
sick during this. Oh
Yeah,
goodness.
I had long COVID. I don't remember making it. All I know is somebody look at that. That's what Christian saw. Chaos. Because
Goodness.
we get flooded. All I mean, there's a storm right now. I don't know if you can hear it, but we get
No.
flooded.
I mean, there's a possibility of being able to hear. Is it actually raining, or is that just like a
Yeah,
fan in the video you're
it's
playing?
it's mad rain out there,
I see.
and I built this under a house that floods if it gets like we get cyclones, and so I had to. What you don't see here is all the stuff that's invisible, which is
Hmm.
I built it like you would build a shower, where it's here we go into the Narnia of it. Look at the difference.
Look at
That
him.
didn't
Yeah.
exist. That didn't exist until just recently. And I sitting there the other day thinking, I can't believe this. Who built this? I can't believe this now exists in what used to be chaos. So try and make the best space you can with whatever budget you have.
Yeah.
Like I say, all this stuff is recycled from junk, from garbage sales and Facebook, you know, all of these little drawers and stuff. So I had to find within myself the will to build a space, and boy, is it worth it afterwards because you end up wanting to go there every day. I want to go
Hmm.
there and draw.
It inspires
See that?
the art.
Yeah, and this is waterproofed. Everything under that floor is acoustic and waterproofed. And so even if the flood comes, all I've got to do is pack up the door, make sure that the door, because there's one place you have to have open. But yeah, anyway, I'm just so excited
I
about
love
that.
it.
Oh, me
No,
too.
justifiably so.
Love it. All right, well, I better get
What
back
is
on
this
task.
one? What is this we've got here?
This is now, I think Rachel did a bit of critique here, and it was really good critique.
I
And it's
see. I
terrific to
see.
see. It's terrific to see a student become a teacher. It's one of my biggest prideful moments, and she does it so well. And she gave great advice, the kind of advice I would have given as well, is that we have a figure here that's really beautifully done, but it seems to be floating in space. And just by
Mm.
adding this little component here, not only does it ground the figure, but it also creates distance. Look at how much more distance we have now because we can see that the contrast is so powerful, and then there's less contrast. Whereas there's less contrast and less contrast. In fact, there's more contrast here than there is here. So that brings this forward, which is a strange disconnect. So that's great stuff there. Well done, Rachel, on that. But the figure work is fantastic. Whoever did this.
This was looks like this was Lucas Tunes.
Oh, this is Lucas. This is Lucas drawing like a
Yeah.
demon. I just found out Lucas is originally from Newfoundland. I haven't talked to him yet, so I'm looking forward to hearing your voice. I remember watching a documentary about the Newfounders, and their voice was so unique. I just loved hearing it. It was like a sing-song voice. I think you hear a bit of it in Fargo. I think that Fargo might be close. I don't know. I don't
Hmm.
know. But this is great stuff here. There's the butterfly in there. So Lucas is in my Anatomy Online course right now. Week 1 has begun, and yeah, he's hitting all the points here. Just fantastic. There's a good little moment there. Do you see when you're starting out, you might do this? See that? But for
What
me,
was this?
oh yeah, just in here. When you're starting out, there's a secondary little fat pad that just lands here. And a lot of it is the magnus adductor muscle that's going across
Mm.
here on the leaf. It's a really massive muscle, one of my favorites. But when you're starting out, you might draw that like this. But for me, this, 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 and that are the first calls. And then we can put that in. And you see how much easier it is and how much more fluid it is and less likely to go off the rails like that and do it too bulgy, things like that. So Lucas is on fire. So it's going to be minutia for me when it comes to Lucas and saying, here's what I would do, Lucas. I would watch the double bubble, just tiny stuff, even if it's in the reference. See if you can just put that little edge in there and save your hard edges maybe for the bones and bring this down here like that. That would be
If you
something I would do.
could you make the pin a little bit bigger? I can't quite
Yeah.
see it so much popping out.
All right.
Sorry.
I'll do it in black. Let's see. So basically here,
There we go.
that's what I'm looking for right there, rather than this.
Yeah.
I'm drawing on the actual picture.
I think one thing that people definitely, when they're working from reference, sometimes they can kind of become a slave to the reference. You don't have to
Oh,
draw
yeah.
every single thing. I think a lot of those, it comes down to idealization, to what
Yeah.
you want to see, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you see something on the model, like it's very clear here that this looks like two bumps, right?
Mhm.
And it is. So I don't like it. And so for me, that has to be a bit more like that. And now we don't have that double bump here. Now, of course, I'm going to have to finesse that a little bit. I'm going to have to go like this, and that'll be a bit better for me. And maybe do that as well. There's little sit bones in here, just around about there, that gives you that curve. And that'll just change the whole world. There we go. So a curve, a straight, and a curve is what I want in there. And when you get a model that's kind of looking a little straight like this, you can see what Lucas has done here. See if you can just push out a little bit more. Just give it that little bit more bone in here with that leg inserts. So full-figured models are great, but they lose the bones. You know, you don't see the
Mhm.
bones. You'll always see them if you look for them. They're always there. But something like this, for instance, see where that tangent is right on that foot? That could be a 2x4 piece of wood right there.
Mhm.
So for me, that has to have a little bit of that and a little bit of malleolus in there for that to work for me. And I'd even push this out a little bit and do that. So I want to see that foot as a foot, not a 2x4. Whoops.
I think, um, so in keeping in line with this, there was a comment here from I Draw for Me Art. They said, they mentioned earlier that they had picked something up of yours from Proko. And then
Oh, yeah?
they mentioned that they also picked up your book. This is The Lying Eye, Drawing from Photos. The things that Patrick has aren't all just video courses. A bunch of these are actually books. That one, the one mentioned there, is actually one that we do have a video associated with that we have on the channel right now. Totally free video and everything. That just, there are different things that you guys can do with photo reference that isn't you just being stuck with the photo reference itself. You can modify something for just your personal style, or you modify because the thing that you want from the reference isn't what's in the reference actually. You can just take the pose, modify that, change that around. And then sometimes, like you talked about in the video itself, there'll be some distortions that are introduced by a lens that you know in real life just aren't there.
Yeah.
But yeah, those things, those books, those are on sale also in that 20% off on proko.com/Patrick Jones. You can find in the description of the chat here.
Amazing.
But I want to hand that back to you. I just wanted to make sure people do know that that is something that's also available.
Yeah. And this is another thing as well. For artists, it's getting harder and harder to make a living. I'm still overwhelmed that the forward is by Steve Houston. I just had to pause there. Well, in the face of adversity, when COVID came along, I wrote this book because I couldn't leave the studio. I couldn't go to live draw or anything. That's why I wrote this book. And it was a really important book because I was working just from photos. And I realized I'm going to be working from photos. It's going to be a harder gig because, can I show that? I deliberately took a photograph of the most absolute foreshortening on purpose to show you what can I mean, it can be a brilliant thing. Let's say we use it for that reason, to completely blow the world away with an over-the-top foreshortened pose. I
Mm-hmm.
can't really show much in this book. That's why it's not up on the screen, because it has so many photos in it. Things like this are already pre-censored. Uh, but you can see that even when you get in fact, sometimes when you got the best reference, it can be a hindrance because you don't think you can better it. And so you end up copying it. And that's a problem.
That's everyone who's ever tried to draw their partner, their girlfriend, boyfriend, or anyone like that. You all know that struggle where you think like you have to draw exactly what they look like in the picture because otherwise you don't think that you can make something better than what they look like, or
Yeah.
you're afraid to depart from it because it'll be something that you're changing for some reason, you know. But no, you don't have to be a slave to the thing.
Yeah. And also, you tend to flatter people, You're best to draw the anonymous.
That's fair. That's fair.
There's that as well.
Patrick, have you ever seen? There's an Instagram in particular that I follow that has some great reference that's not flattering by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
I'll have to share it with you.
Yeah.
Um, it's an interesting. I'll send it to you afterwards.
Okay.
But yeah, it's like specifically unflattering reference of people.
Oh, right. Oh, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, I get you. Yeah, the reason I brought this up as well is one of the students have brought in a drawing based on this, and I didn't have the original reference. It didn't come with the drawing. So for the next time when we do critiques, please bring in the reference that you work from, even if it's drawings that I did, so I can look back and forth. Because a lot of my drawings, I don't really erase. I mean, I don't think I erased a single thing in this drawing all the way through, because I think when you erase, you have to do it sometimes, of course, but when you erase, it automatically says I've made a mistake. And what I like to do is just draw lighter and use lots of pentimento, lost and found lines. And eventually the darker lines will take over the other lines anyway. You can see in here where that hand was different, where that hand and arm were different. And if you draw lots and lots, you end up really not needing to get the eraser out, because all of these shapes are simple. They're very simple shapes to begin with. And when they're really simple, it's easy to see the proportion. Let's just bring up the beginning of that. If I can, there it is there. So I always do a couple of shots. If I'm going to do a finished drawing, I'll do a couple of shots at it. So the first shot will be this. This is from Fantasy Female Figures, by the way, the other course. It's on Proko. And if you want to know which way to approach it, then the drawing wizardry course would be the first call, and then the Fantasy Female Figures would be the second call, where I go into really deep render. But here you can see that I'm having a first go at it. See that? That's a first go, just to feel the rhythm. And it's over pushed. Do you see how I've pushed it more and more? I want to see how much flow I can get. And during this, I felt the knees were too tight to the head, things like that. And then you can step back from the drawing. What have you invested? 10 minutes. 10 minutes investment, and off you go again. But you're not drawing the same thing again. You're drawing a better version of it, because you've already explored. This is an exploratory mission right here. But it gives you all the gesture. The next one is a little bit more, let's say, accurate, but it is still got that gesture in it from the exploratory mission. But look where you can go with it. See that? Like I say, there's not a single thing erased there because of the confidence. So what I'm doing is I'm just knocking it back every once in a while to have another go pentimento style over and over. So if you can just get in that flow, just get into that flow state, just keep on moving all the way through it.
I think this is also something. There's those times where learning art students, they'll see someone work who has a very confident process. They'll see it and they think that, oh, this person's just miraculous. They're perfect at everything that they do. So often a lot of that, like you said, it's that confidence, and then it's knowing how to work with the quote unquote mistakes that you make. And working them into something. It's just having the ability to know that you can place a mark confidently and then also work with the things that aren't quite perfect.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if this is real science or not, but Dunning-Kruger, it's when an artist can't see their own faults, but see faults in artists that are better than them. So it's a really syndrome. It's a really and it's very common. Let's use it. So I say to myself, why should they have all the fun? Let's use a bit of Dunning-Kruger. So when I feel I'm off my game or that I'm not as good as I could be, I just go full Dunning-Kruger. I go, you're the best artist in the world. You can't make any errors. And right away, I'm better. Right away.
It's
And
perfect. Yeah. For
you
anyone in the chat who doesn't know what the Dunning Kruger effect is, it's like the most toxic version of that idea of a little bit of knowledge is a bad thing, where someone who has like a small amount of knowledge of something assumes that they're just like that peak expert. I think
yeah,
using that to a positive is a very good idea, Patrick.
yeah, absolutely. You can see that you're, I see students beating themselves up all the time. They go, oh, I'm so far off the mark. And look, all it takes to fix that. All it took to make that head work was just a little bit extra at the back there, hardly anything at all. So as
Mm.
you go, just keep doing these drawings, like Miles has done here. Miles' surname, will say it like
It's
in the army.
I
Miles.
do like their name says it is Miles on this paper, but then their name on here on Proko is Fatty Two Toes.
Oh, it's Fatty Two Toes. Oh, well done. I know Fatty Two Toes. He wrote a great review for me. Thanks, Fatty, for that review. I hope you don't mind I'm using it. But if you do, let me know. If anyone's got any affirmations, I just love to put them up. Yeah, Fatty Two Toes is terrific, and he's getting the mileage in here. Like I say, look how little it takes for me to just show you that you're so close to the mark that it's not going to take much more for you to get this. Hardly anything at all. So I get students all the time, and they go, "I'll never get this," and I'll do a quick little line drawing, and you're so close. You're just so close, and it's the effect of just keep going. This could be. Like I say, there's art and everything else. I love the length of this drawing. I think it is so unique to see this length here. I just think it's gorgeous. Some things don't work. I don't think that head works because we've got this length idea. So I think if we had that and that length, it works. You don't have to have proportion work that well. I always like to put a little bit more on these condyles on the foot here. It's just, for me, it just has to read as a foot. So I always pull the the calcaneus back and maybe add a big toe. You push it down like this for more expression. Things like that. No, Fatty Two Toes is terrific. He's done some
I want to point out just like if you turn off, did you draw this on a separate layer in there in Photoshop? Yeah, if you turn that on and off, the small things the changes that you've made, like you said, just the small push here and there, a nudge, does so much. They were so close.
Yeah, so close. Absolutely.
I did want to point out, you were talking about the idea of people thinking that they're never gonna get there. It's just too far of a leap to try to get there. Then we have Ahab here in the chat saying very confidently, "One day, I'll have my skill to be as great as this, and then further beyond."
Who was that?
Just Ahab in the chat. Yes.
Well done, Ahab.
That's the right idea.
You know what I'm going to call you, Ahab? I'm going to call you Captain Ahab. There we go. You go fight that. You fight that white whale. You can do it. Fantastic. That's Moby Dick for anyone that's literary.
Call me Ahab or call me Ishmael.
Oh, what a great start to your book. That's one of my favorite. When I opened that first page and read that first line, I went, I'm in. I thought that was a brilliant way to start the book. Call me Ishmael.
I backdoored my way into Moby Dick by way of Jeff Smith's Bone. It's a like a favorite book that's it's quoted throughout Bone. And so I decided, you know what? I've got to go and read Moby Dick.
Yeah, Moby Dick is fabulous. There's a really good movie of it too with Gregory Peck. They don't always make the movies usually a disaster, but that's a pretty good movie with him as Captain Ahab. It's just,
I haven't seen this adaptation of this.
Yeah, it's really terrific. The reason it's so good, it was basically the screenplay was by Ray Bradbury, so it's very unusual for someone of his stature writing a screenplay. Boy, what a good job! And also, I think John Huston directed it, so it was all high caliber people working on it. It was really good.
Goodness.
But yeah, it shows you really the destruction of ego. So that's another.
You'll have to check this one out. You said who was the star of this one? If I was to Google this, Gregory Peck was the person. Okay, perfect.
And you could say that Gregory Peck had Dunning-Kruger syndrome. Gregory Peck had no acting skills at all, right? He'd never acted. Honestly, he'd never acted in his life. He worked at the 30 Rock in New York. He worked there
It was like as
as
a page or something.
an usher, yeah, just bringing people up in the line. And he read that at Radio City, which is, if you've been to New York, just walk across the street. He read that they were auditioning for a role, and he walked across the street in his lunch break and got the role. And he starred in every single movie after that. He was never a co-star.
Goodness.
Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
Get a little
Yeah,
bit
no,
of that.
Dunning Kruger your way into it.
He just went in there. He became a star on his lunch break. Incredible. Fantastic.
Like, that's the best way to put that one.
Yeah,
There's one comment here. Nathan Watkins in the chat asks, "Can we please put some clothes on these people? 50% of the people on this screen have clothes on right now." Well, actually, you know what? 25. I'll change it. 25% of the people shown on this screen currently have clothes on. Myself and Patrick, clothes. The man in this reference, clothes. Having a nude model for something in art, it's not a bad thing. It's not inherently sexual either. It's just something that we do to look for and study the human figure.
I think
it changes nothing.
I think if you're not working from a nude model, you have got, let's say, 90% less ability to express yourself as a figurative artist. More, 99%. You've got to understand anatomy. It's just anatomy. Just get out of your head that it's anything else. It's anatomy. And it's wonderful. And it's one of the greatest things I ever discovered is how to draw the figure. I mean, we're all, who's going to be surprised by a nude figure? You walk past.
Hey, I've got one. You've got one.
You look in the mirror in the bathroom and go, my God, turn the lights on. Well, for me, you might want to do that.
The idea of it being something that's inherently sexual, it's just not true. I mean, for like a large portion of people on the internet, we all know they all have a thing about feet. That doesn't mean that everyone has to wear shoes in every single video or anything.
That's right.
So it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Calm down.
And it's amazing how I get a lot of students that come into my classes, not a lot, but every once in a while a student will come in and they don't want to draw the nude figure. And so I have to put them in a room. I mean, I'm sensitive to it. It's where they've come from. It's a different culture. So I put them in another room and they sit and they draw from the drawings that I bring in from the class. And then eventually they come out of the room and they draw the figure. And they love it. And by the end of the day, they go, this has been the most fruitful thing ever. To a person, every single one of them has done really great work after that, because it takes no time at all. I mean, this is Amanda that I was working with at New Masters. It takes no time at all before you're just talking to the model and you forget that they're naked. You just totally forget about it. And you start talking about sandwiches. It's just, you don't even think about it anymore. It's amazing. So it's not.
I remember the first time I ever ended up talking to a model during a drawing session. We were just like talking about music or something. Like it's fine. It's people. If it is something that you are sensitive to the person in the chat, if that's something that you need some sort of different option for how you draw from life, there's definitely going to be channels out there and other resources that you can utilize. We just won't be one of those, and that's okay.
Yeah, a bikini model's pretty good because they also show iliac crest is and things like that. So you can work from a bikini model quite well. But here's Rachel on fire as usual. And look what Rachel's done here. So Rachel, once again, is one of the coaches on Proko. Look how she's broken the rules here. So she has basically said, proportions be damned. This is no longer half in my world. I'm going to take it to here and make these legs Amazonian. And that's what's great after a while like that. So if you add length to the anything below the torso, then you're going to get that Amazon shape. It's amazing. So proportion's not a big deal for me. I would say, Rachel, just there, maybe bring that gluteus. Here's the thing as well. I shouldn't even say it, because a high gluteus denotes someone that's really powerful, like in the Olympics and things like that. Just for my personal taste, I'd probably bring that down. And haven't done it now, I don't think so. Because here's the thing. You could take anything from history, and I mean anything, the Statue of David, and you could tear it to pieces. You could go, the anatomy's off here, it's off there, the proportions off here, it's off there. And you could correct the statue of David against a model, and it would look really boring. It would just be ordinary because everyone does that. The reason why it's so fantastic is the hands are big, the head's big. He's emphasized things that he wanted to tell the story with. He slew a giant with his giant hand. Well, you need a big hand to throw that stone. You're not going to throw it with a little tiny little hand that just does dishes. So, everything tells a story. But and Rachel's a great storyteller. She's telling stories here all the time. Just fantastic. Look how she knows that scapula is up. And she's even used the scapula, look, to design these little neon shapes as well. Just brilliant. Always great. And that around that great trochanter. So design around the anatomy, it's a wonderful thing. Really beautiful, Rachel. Always great stuff.
Yeah. I think this is an interesting one. Also, I think that it's fun to see that they took the piece in a way where it's something they can put in a portfolio for illustrative work as well. Strong colors and everything in there.
Yeah.
It's a fun one. They put their study to use.
Yeah, she's fantastic. Rachel's really an exceptional artist. So be inspired by an exceptional artist. Don't be frightened of them. Just be inspired by them. And you'll go a long way. We have to grow as a community, And I'm not just saying that all like airy wise. We really have to. We're a small herd. It's very easy to pick this herd off. They go on the internet all the time and they try and ridicule artists for I don't know what reason. Well, I kind of do. It's Dunning-Kruger again. But yeah, I think this is Fatty Two Toes again.
And it does look like it.
And he was working from Stan's. Stan did a great job on that drawing. I remember it took my breath away when I first saw it. I went, wow, even at a certain level, you go another level, and you'll just see it every once in a while. You go, whoa, another level. And Stan jumped another level with that drawing. I remember seeing it. So really great anatomy in there. And like I say, Fatty Two Toes is going great guns. It won't take much, for me to say, proportion-wise, with the bulk of this. We need to bring this out a little bit. Things like that, just this, basically at this edge, it's just gone off the rails a little bit, but so close to it, there's hardly anything there again. And you might have a thing as well. It might be just like we all have a thing. So if I think Fatty Two Toes that you might have a thing, it would be just add more to the back of the head. It's my get out of jail free card anyway. Because if I just add to the back of the head here, you don't have to do anything to the front. Look, see that? So that's all you needed. Just a little bit of that. Get out of jail free. And then just
I will say,
carve off here.
For this one, Fatty Two Toes from Miles, I think that you already were definitely making some choices where you were like beautifying something here and there, Don't be afraid to do that in some other ways. Because, it's not like you were adhering super hard to what Yoni's hair was in there. It was like wispy in the front. The shape's a little different, Don't be afraid to do that with the other things in the piece.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't be afraid. Stephen has got a great bit of advice there from Stephen. Just don't be afraid. It's just a drawing. It's just a flat piece of paper, so thin that if you turn it here, you won't see anything at all. It's not the end of the world to do a bad drawing. In fact, it's the beginning of the next good drawing, is what it is. I would just say one thing, Miles, is, like I say, I'm using the Sergeant term because I'm not sure what his first name is. Sergeant Miles, I would say don't be worried about the end of the paper and fitting your drawing on there. It's something we all did to begin with. Just let it bleed off right there. Because you'll end up, you'll end up doing a great figure. I see this a lot too in my students. Sometimes it's a cultural thing. I always find my Asian students are very, they've come in, basically, I think they've come in, it costs a fortune to go to university here, so they want to do their very best, but they'll try and fit it on they'll do that. They've got this fantastic chance to do a figure that's standing like this, all the way down, and because you ran out of paper, they'll put that in. It's not that important.
Yeah, okay. It's a classic mistake. You see it on everything. You see it on people when they go to draw like protest signs, They'll have written the first words really big, and then as they get smaller and smaller.
It's always protest signs, isn't it? They get excited. They go. They get their big idea done, and then they realize there's more to it. They angrily fill it out. There's great
Yeah,
stuff from
it's a problem. Oh, look at
yeah.
this one. Some Ray Harryhausen pieces.
It's actually Frazetta. It's Frazetta. So
Really
we talk about Frazetta, and I've got a bit of that from the wizardry in here somewhere. Let's have a look.
interesting. Yeah, they look like those old Harryhausen, like for the films.
Yeah, I
Wow.
think Frazetta had to be influenced by Ray Harryhausen. I mean, in the decade he grew up in, when I saw Jason and the Argonauts, it blew my mind. Really did.
Hmm.
We talk about hands as well. I think Frank Frazetta was very good at hands. He really knew where the knuckles and bones were. So we talk about that. But basically, this is where we're talking about where I dissect a Frazetta, one of my favorite Frazetta paintings here. But when it comes to copy, I don't want to copy it exactly because I'll lose my mojo. So I'm just having a look at
Hmm.
how he did these big apes here, but I'm doing it in my style, where I'm using what I know about anatomy to see what the choices were he made. So I'm just glancing and then coming back, and I lost gesture. This happens too. So don't worry about it. If you're copying a master, you lose gesture just by default because they weren't copying anything else. So when you copy
Mm.
something, you lose your gesture because you're not in a flow. You're in a copy. And so if Rosetta was in the flow and I'm in the copy, but I'm trying to do a flow and a copy at the same time, which is a better way to do it. But I still lose that flow. There's a certain arc there that I'm not quite getting.
Hmm.
But that's what I'm doing. So if you're doing a copy, you can religiously do it and you'll learn a lot. But it's not going to help me become me. It's just going to help me become like someone else. And I certainly don't want that. So you can see how I'm running around here. I'm doing my thing and then just glancing over to see what Frank did. So I
Hmm.
felt the knuckles there were a little bit binary, sacrilege, but just what I felt. I've learned so much from Frank. But remember, he's just knocking these out. He didn't know we were going to look at them 40 years, 50 years later. No idea.
That's what. That's one of the things that I like. There's those times when, like, an artist is just doing work to do the work, and the other
Yeah.
times where we've gone through and used some crazy like science, like laser scanner thing to see an underdrawing on some great master's piece, and it just looks like just the worst. The poor guys, they didn't want anyone to see it.
That's right. Well, I think I was talking the other day. I can't remember where it was. I think it's in the, what was it? Oh, I can't remember. But there was a Gainsborough picture. I think it was Gainsborough anyway. And yeah, I do talk about it in my course. And you could see where he had drawn a musket and an arm. And it was obvious that the client said, move the arm and the musket. And he was going, well, it just doesn't fit the composition. This is invisible conversation. I just imagined it. And you could see in the painting where he changed the iterations of the musket. And the final arm and musket that he draws is just atrocious looking. And I think he left the the underdrawing in there for anyone in the future, us, to look at it and go, what clown made him move that perfect arm and musket over to there? Right? That. And so that's the problem with, if you're adhering too much to someone else's ideas and
Yeah.
to here at this moment here, these are Frank Frazetta's ideas. But look how much gesture I'm getting in this arm based on the fact that I'm not looking at that arm, apart from just a glance in there. So I'm getting some wins there. And I think that if Frank was here today, he'd go, of course I would have done that, Patrick, if I'd have known that you were going to dissect it 50, 60 years later. It's so obvious to me now. And it always is. It's so obvious to the fresh eye what
Yeah.
needs to be done. And, that's why it's important to show your stuff. Always
You were
show it.
saying this was like this video here is part of a course.
It's
What
wizardry.
what course? That's what course, Patrick?
It's the wizardry course that we're promoting today, Stephen.
Okay, hero you that you can find over on Patrick Proko.com/Patrick Jones for 20% off right now during our Black Friday sale.
Yeah.
That sale runs for the whole rest of the month. You guys can get Photoshop brushes from Lane Brown, who Patrick had mentioned earlier, photo reference packs that Patrick had mentioned earlier, any one of Patrick's books, which are all fantastic and great companions to the video courses that you see, and some of the other free videos that we've had across the website. So,
Yeah.
yeah, just go check it out, guys.
Thanks,
And then
Peter.
as one thank you for taking that journey with me for the sale there, Patrick. There was one other question here. I think that you might
Yeah.
have some say on. I think people have kind of given this person a lot of good information already,
Yeah.
but Jackson in the chat says, when drawing clothing, does anyone else find themselves taking the anatomy underneath way farther than they need? It
Mm.
seems like they have a problem where they kind of, because they have that knowledge of the anatomy, possibly, they're kind of over rendering it on the outside where it may not be necessary. Do you have
Yeah.
any notes for them?
It can happen, yeah. Even Michelangelo did it. He would go too muscular on the female figures. In fact, Michelangelo's female figures are weird as hell on the statues. If you ever see them, the breasts are just stuck on like two globes. I don't think he had much interest. He was like the opposite of me. He wanted to do the male figure primarily.
Mm.
So it can happen, you know. Uh, what I would say, this is a copy of a copy of a copy right here. So it's like a facsimile edition where it's going to be tougher and tougher. So don't be tough on yourself because you're looking at a facsimile when you're doing a master copy. So
Hmm.
it's almost like copying the photograph, where the photograph is an unmovable reminder that you didn't get everything exactly that way, which is unimportant anyway. So remember that any mark you make is a mark forward all the time. So I would go back into this drawing again and just add a little bit more gesture to it. Like I lost some and then you lost some, and that's the way it goes. But the fact is that you got it all on there, and another iteration of this and another iteration. If you can simplify it all the way down, take out a lot of the stuff, then you're going to get a better read on it. Like the head might be over here, for instance. You might do this. The less time you spend on the render, the more chance is that you're going to get a flow all the way through. The flow here is very nice, actually, right there. You haven't lost a beat there, but you could get more if you pull that arm out. This is nice. You did that very well. Things like this, knowing that the leg is going to come out from this point here, like that, you know, like that, rather than like that. See that push out, that bend that we see, and then there's a bend onto the big toe, for instance, like this. Just feeling that flow all the way through the art is an amazing thing, and it comes from gesture and drawing lots and lots of mileage. So a copy can kill it. It will kill your rhythm, and too much worry about getting it the same as the reference is probably the biggest killer. So just
Hmm.
tiny little things like that will get you where you need to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Patrick, I was wondering, do you have? There's one that was kind of a like a mermaid looking kind of figure. Did you possibly pull this one?
Let's have a look. I think
Do you
it's
know
from
the
the
one?
fantasy. Yeah, I think it's from the Fantasy Female Figures course. Let me have a look if I remember.
Because I think so. The one because that's one of the person who is here, and I was
Oh,
hoping
right.
that
Yes.
maybe.
Yeah.
It looks like this one's in the fantasy figure drawing wizardry.
Oh, is it?
Uh,
Well, let's have a look back. I thought it was the mermaid on the beach. We'll have a quick look, and the artist can tell me. Let's go back in.
yeah, let's see. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure for the person who was here they could get the critique live. Yeah, that was the one there.
Was it?
A couple back.
Okay.
One more back.
This
That
one?
one there. Yeah.
All right. I think this is from Fantasy Female Figures because it's not my drawing. This one, as far as I
Interesting.
know, anyway. I think
Okay.
it's. I wonder if it was the same artist that did the other mermaid. Let's go through here. This one, that
Let's
one.
see.
That's definitely from Fantasy Female Figures.
Hmm.
So let's have a look. So if the artist is still there, that would be a question to ask.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they are. I know like the live streams can be a little bit long, so maybe they don't get to hang out
Yeah.
for the whole thing. But yeah, I just wanted
Yeah.
to see if maybe that person was here.
Yeah.
So let's see. If
Oh,
you
yeah.
are, make yourself known.
It was Fantasy Female Figures. Yeah. Sorry, this is where I'm at my poorest.
They said this is Solar Muffin 68 in the YouTube chat, and they said that's the one, and they said no reference was used.
All right. Well, great stuff. Then that stops me having to go look for it. Wonderful. So beautiful stuff. Yeah, drawing from imagination is so important. It really is. And I've been doing tons of that this week. Just what I've been doing for this next course, How to Draw Easily, the easy way, is that if you're working from reference, do about three or four imaginary ones on the side, and it'll stop you rendering and overthinking it and
Mm.
gets you back into the flow and also brings the joy back, is what it does. So, this is a beautiful piece of work. I really love it. And there's something really quite terrifying about it, isn't there? There's something terrifying about this arm that seems to be breaking and reforming itself. It's really amazing stuff. So and I love these rocky shapes here. These are fantastic. And once again, the idea that the anatomy is in the right place and maybe a bit lengthened is what makes it work every time. Like I could say, well, you could bring that long head of the tricep down to here. But the more I correct that, and I don't like to use the word correct, is it loses what it is. See, look, that's a flow thing now. It's lost all of that beautiful rocky horror, rocky horror. There you go. It's the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
It's some sort of picture show.
It's really great. I love it. That's why it's hard to critique art because, it can be style. Everything is about basically the end result is not look what I can do, is look how I did it.
Mm.
And come with me and see that journey. I know it seems a little bit wistful that, but it's true. All my favorite art, even when I didn't understand it, was because there was a voice there. There was something different. And you can see in the wizardry course, there's three trinkets where I talk about the artists that influenced me the most. And even as a kid, with no idea of style at all, I understood that that was better than the other guy who was
Mm.
more anatomically correct, who was more academic. And you can look through a million really dull history paintings where the academy is just written large all the way, writ large. There we go, a little bit of literary there, writ large across it. Where you go, a bit dull, isn't it? And then you'll get something like the Wreck of the Medusa, and it'll stop you in your tracks because there's a flow through it. You go, this is a design, and yet it's realistic as well. So these artists, Jeff Jones, Frank Frazetta, Boris Vallejo, all these guys, I talk about them in the wizardry course. So there's a little part where I do a fireside chat and I sit down and I go, here's the reason why. Here's why I think these are so terrific. And it's not always what you think. It's hardly ever about technique, even though that's one of the major components. It's not what I see first. What I see first is a style that's unique. And of course, that comes from technique. But look at the style in this. So I'm going to give the style an A plus. I never grade anything, by the way. I'm just going to give it a big love heart there.
Look at that.
With an A plus in it. Style is terrific. But the anatomy's here. Look at it. Look how this lines up. It's all lining up. It's terrific. You can put a box in there if you want. Not that I care too much about boxes, but you can. And it fits in there just nicely. It's great. See, the minute I start doing boxes, I lose the will to live. Even though they're really important. They really are terrific. But it can kill the flow. So I want to get in there and do this with a box every time. The idea of
it
it,
with something looser.
yeah, the idea of it is terrific, But I just got to get out of that as quickly as I can. I want to get out of box world. So we all have different ways, We all have different ways to do it. I think this is Marco again. Done a lovely render. So look at the style of Marco. The style is just fantastic. Really fantastic. And, for me, if I was to critique a Marco, it would be minutia. It would be tiny, tiny things, And every once in a while, I get this model's amazing. I mean, look how dehydrated he is. Give that guy some water. He's about to faint.
Yeah, the man's hypervascular. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, he's in bodybuilding mode. He's in competition mode right there.
Uh-huh.
So what they do is they dehydrate. They've got no water in their body and it shrinks the skin right to the muscle. Look what it does to the veins as well. But yeah, good for us. His loss is our gain. So we've got,
his gains are our gain.
His gains are our gain. That's right. I mean, how often do we see the brachior or the brachialis puffer on like that? It's amazing. and then we can separate the triceps from the biceps so easily with that coracoid brachialis. See, this is where bodybuilding just it loses it for me. Look at that tangent in there, which is real, but look at it. So basically, I could take that arm off and set it on a shelf, and then take the torso and put it on a different shelf. It has lost all of its gestural connectivity. It's too
Hmm.
structural for me. So I'd have to take that stuff out. But boy, these guys are terrific for really seeing anatomy. I mean, to the untrained eye, what's that? Well, it's part of the pecs, actually, right there. That little shape there is part of the pecs, which we normally don't see. And also, when it comes to anatomy, you've got to understand that you can get into a position where you're not really seeing that we're looking up at this figure. And that's why these clavicles are kind of almost the last call on that body. We can hardly see where
Hmm.
the trapezius are because we're looking up. We're looking up like this. So it has really foreshortened this moment here from the pecs upwards, because that's also going back in space. So many things, but lots and lots of mileage will get you there to start understanding this, or to continue understanding it. That these are parts like that, but the main flow is here. You hear me talk about Mr. T and Mrs. V. We talked about mnemonics all the time. These two moments here will get you everything you need. Just like that.
Hmm.
We can put anything on that. We can do anything we want from that moment. Just from a T down to a V. It'll tell us everything we need to do to place everything else in. And after a while, you don't even have to think about basically proportion. It'll all fit itself in because you got the torso right. You got Mr. T and
Hmm.
Mrs. V in there to begin with. I mean, I hardly have to check the proportion on that. I know it's going to be pretty close to it. See that? That's going to be pretty close. And that's like drawing the way I wouldn't recommend drawing, which is a part at a time.
Hmm.
You know, we can just keep going down that figure. And like Rachel, the more you add to the bottom, the more majestic it's going to get. It's going to get better and better and better. Another thing as well is with hands, be aware that hands take the shape of whatever they're holding. See that? It's taking the shape of this. So if you're going to place a hand on a hip, place it as if it's the hip, like that. If you're drawing from imagination.
That's good to
Another
know.
thing happens when the arm goes up, you've got to bring the breast up with it. So there's a lot of things that you have to consider. But a hand going around the head would have to be feeling that shape. It's going around the head. Drawing's a wonderful way to keep your mind active. If let's say you're in retirement age, you could do crossword puzzles, or you could do this, and your mind will be active all the time. It's just the most wonderful way to spend hours. I have to set alarms. Otherwise, I'll be underneath that house, underneath this house, till 10 at night and think it's 4 in the afternoon. I'm isolated. I'm in an isolation chamber, but it's a really nice one.
The nicest isolation chamber.
Yes. So you have wonderful stuff there from Marco. So
And
let's see if you can, when you next come through again, Marco, see if you can find that flow. I'm going to do it in red. And this is for everyone, because we can end up getting too, like I say, with a male figure, especially, too rigid with it. So I'm going to show you what I think is the most important thing here, is trying to maintain that all the way through. Whoops. I saw Stan got a Cintiq, a big Cintiq, and
mhm.
I'm going to buy that for myself for Christmas. So
Ooh.
if you do lots of art, you get some money for it, and then you can buy yourself some more art stuff. It's
Is
really fantastic.
we can talk about some, like, there are a bunch of different options out there. There might be one in there that you could possibly get for a less expensive price. We'll
Oh yeah,
talk afterwards. I'm gonna write a little note here.
thanks, Stephen. I'll have a look at
Yeah.
that. But beautiful
Um.
stuff from Marco. Yeah, go ahead, Stephen.
There's one other question here. about this. So Wolf Knightley in the chat asked, so if you were painting this, Patrick, would you
Yeah.
soften that line between the deltoid and the rest of the arm?
Yeah, I definitely would. I'd do it. I mean, look how Marco's done it very nicely there. Use your lost edges. And a lost edge doesn't mean invisible. It can just be a softer edge. So at the minute he's like He-Man, Master of the Universe, where the difference between the character and the doll wasn't much because it looked like components. So you can see that. I mean, hats off to Marco. He's done exactly what I would have done there. I would have softened that moment in there. This just is unreal to me. I won't say the word. We all know what's going on there.
You think there's some gear involved?
There's definitely gear involved there. Well, the guy might prove me wrong. He might go, I'm Mr. Natural Universe. But that's wild. That's wild in there. But it may just be my insecurity. I don't know. I've worked out all my life and I've never got anywhere close to that.
Patrick, you know what? As a person who looks nothing like that, absolutely. Yeah. That's what he's doing.
He must be. I mean, Stephen, if we've done a bit of, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Why don't we what the heck?
Yeah. This is, who we got here now? If the artist.
Let me see. I'm going to find this one in here. All right. So it looks like, I'm going to say this looks like this is Johanna.
Possibly? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I wonder if this is Johanna was from my online course from a while back. I wonder, from South Africa.
Huh.
Oh, hold on. No, Johanna. All right. No, I'm thinking Johan. I don't know.
I might also be making assumptions on things. This might be Johanna, but that's how I choose to pronounce this one.
I wonder.
For whatever that's worth. So what is it you're seeing here? That you're redlining?
Yeah, I'm just having a look at some of the stuff I would have trimmed off and added to. I've drawn on top. You're gonna have to remember this. I've drawn on top of it. When it comes on, it's got to go up on YouTube, isn't it, and stay there?
Yeah, this will be on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, just rewind it.
That's okay. It's fine.
So I'm just throwing on top there to show where I felt that it could do with a little bit less here and a little bit more there. Tiny things. But I remember this is a quick drawing of Amanda that I did in the wizardry course. So there's a few ways you can do the wizardry course. I recommend that you draw along. Just draw what I'm doing is a good way to do it, and then you don't have to tax your brain too much. And then draw your way. And if it's too much, like I say, 5 minutes at the start. If you're starting to get befuddled in the 10 minutes, just rewind to the 5 minutes and do another iteration of it, and on until you're ready to go to the next spot. Because it can be overwhelming if you think, Patrick's making that look easy. It wasn't always easy. It just took a lot of mileage to get there.
Mm-hmm.
This is nice. This might be Fatty Toes again.
This is still Johanna, it looks like.
Oh, is it? That's nice. A little bit of streams of consciousness, which you also get in the course too. Streams of consciousness, so important. Just let your mind go. Just fill that page with marks. And these are lovely, lovely marks. Really nice. Beautiful stuff there. Great. And I love this, the boldness of it. I know it's in the parallax view. So the parallax view is basically if you're holding your drawing like this, you're drawing on a table and you're bent over it like this. So basically, if your head's not in alignment with that drawing board, let's say your head's up here, like this, then you're seeing a skewed image like that. So we have a skewed image because I can see it there. So I know that the proportions are not quite what we see, but sometimes, this was something I learned a long time ago, sometimes drawing the parallax view, just put your drawing straight on a flat table and draw without bringing your head forward. And you might end up with something really monumental like this, where it feels like you're looking up at Mount Rushmore or some gigantic Greek gods, It's a wonderful thing. But beautiful. This is the way to do it. These eyes are terrific. That little nose is great. This is the way to find style. And these little mnemonics, you can see me, I started with mnemonics from other people and then end up with my own. I like this one. It's the shape of some kind of cup. See that? If I cut that across, it gets me the eyes. pretty much in the center, like that. That's been a great mainstay for me to find the cheekbone and then the zygomatic muscles down to the lips. And it's always been a really beautiful mnemonic for me. Could we
Like a
make it a
little
cup
teacup
with an ear?
there.
There you go. There's an ear and a cup. So make your own up as you go. And obviously from the wizardry course there, this belt shape to find the iliac crest and where the legs would fit into it is another. I think that is my mnemonic, that belt, even though people, I think, may have mentioned it before, where your belt sits. I
Yeah, I
don't
think
claim
you
to
talked about like a '70s belt. I think
a
was one
70s
that you said
belt.
a lot.
Yeah, I love those 70s belts. Bring them back. Big belt, big buckle, big statement. Here's the middle
I
of me.
think yeah, we'll get back there. I think to that kind of style of belt. Everything's cyclical in fashion.
Yeah, absolutely. I bring it back. When I go and get a belt, I'm looking for that big belt. It's so
But
substantial.
if you get a big old '70s belt, Patrick, you gotta post it on socials for me to see. Okay.
Well, I'll tell you what it is, Stephen. It might be trauma. When I was a kid, we had a guy in the street. Man, I love him. He's Larry Hunter. He was my next door neighbor. He was just awful. He would do what's an atomic wedgie. He would grab into your pants and pull your underpants over your head, and they would
Oh.
just he would just split. It was the most humiliating thing. He would do it at
So,
every opportunity.
do you think that the '70s belt that would be like your armor? This would protect you
Couldn't
from this thing.
couldn't get his hands in. Couldn't get his hands in. I saw a guy. I saw a guy do a dive in a music festival the other day, and his pants flew off. He'll never do that again. 70s belt.
'70s belt, sort that right out.
And they kept pushing him through the crowd. He was never getting those pants back. 70s belt. This is wonderful stuff. I can't remember what this is from, because I've drawn so much. And that's what you want to be in. It's not Alzheimer's. It's just be able to draw so much that you have to go, when did I do this? What was this for? And that's why I like to write notes as well. If I draw a model, I write their name and the date on it. But if I'm doing a course like this, I tend not to do that.
Mhm.
So this might be from, is it drawing from photos? It wouldn't be that. No, it might be from the wizardry course. But
Yeah,
great stuff.
I'm not too sure offhand, and I don't think that looking at the post about it, I don't think that they said it either.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So brilliant stuff. I think we've gone through. I mean, that's a really great piece of work there from Marco, I think. Let's see just how far he's come on. Is that the study sheets? Yeah, I think this was in study sheets here. What was that at the bottom? Let's have a look. I think that was the mermaid at the bottom too.
Yeah, I think people getting to draw from the same reference that you drew from, or looking at the actual drawing that you made, it's an interesting one. I think it can lead to this kind of like it's a great way to study. Master studies are a classic for a reason, but then there can
Yeah.
also be this idea of the game of telephone. Something that will change and get modified by the
Yeah,
next person who's looking at the decisions that you made and making their own decisions on top of that.
absolutely. It's just the way to do it. There's so many ways to approach it, and every one of them are valid, every single one. And that's why I don't say, here's the way to do it. Here's my way of doing it. I hope you can expand on it or get something from it. So that's what I was looking for there. You can see here that this artist has found a whole different world of line and tone. This is from Fantasy Female Figures, where I draw this. There was a nude model with it, so I can't really show it. But basically, the difference between these two is a universe of difference, and each one has their merit. And so I want to look at this drawing more than my drawing, because I didn't do this drawing. And so for me, that's fresh and new and exciting. And that's the way it should be. I would say watch the tangent on the fingers right here as they touch that foot. There's one thing I am big on. I don't like to say, like I just said, there's no ultimatums, but there's one thing I really adhere to, and it's tangents. I make sure that because this is a 2D surface, so basically it's just a flat piece of paper. It's the same here. The distance here and the distance here are exactly the same. We only get an idea of distance by how we overlap things. And when two things don't overlap, like here, then we suddenly feel that we're on this flat plane again, like that. So that's one thing that I watch for. Make sure that you get, especially with foreshortening, you really get the chance to overlap all the time. So I'm very conscious of overlapping forms.
It is interesting. There's another kind of it's not, you can't see it quite the best here, and so maybe that's a little bit of where it came from. But where they have the hand that's overlapping with the rib cage, they
Yeah,
have something of a tangency around the knuckles
yeah,
of that hand in their piece. Um,
yeah,
because of where that dark area is, it's reinforcing that line of the curve of the rib cage
yeah,
in a way that's not necessarily implying depth. It just kind of makes you kind of stick in there.
yeah. There's a you can use it too. I mean,
Oh,
Escher used
absolutely.
Escher used it for fun. There's no rules. That's why I always hesitate. When you hear me go, I'm not hesitating because I don't know. I'm hesitating because I don't want to put an ultimatum down. So for me, everything's valid. But tangents, if I have one bugbear, it's that tangents. They gotta go for me, for my style of art, because I want
Mm-hmm.
that flow. I want that beautiful flow all the way through, and a tangent's gonna kill that. I mean, you can get a distance just by the torpedo effect of that figure going forward with that leg projecting that whole push. When I put this cloak in, it wasn't an accident. It was to enhance that flow. And what are we looking at here? Look how much you can get in a short time. I thought it was 9 minutes, but it's not. I've done a lot of gesture before that. But it's only a few minutes after a world of mileage to just hit those points. So you'll see me in the wizardry course talking about those two shapes. And Stan does a wonderful thing with the robo bean. There's so many different ideas and ways to do this. And I have my own ways to do it too.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something as well. If you're grabbing from a whole lot of teachers, that's brilliant. Put it all in the mix. But it sometimes is a problem if you're going this way and that way and this way. And then it's a big mess. Whereas take it all and go, what can I do? And I end up with a Liberty Bell. And I go, that's how I work now. I'm going to use a Liberty Bell for this hips all the way up. And it's always that. And that way I don't have to go, it's half of this, it's a mini skirt, it's that or this. I just chose the one I like. So there's a million ways to do it. Cheerleader's mini skirt can get you that shape. I go with the bell every time now. And so I don't hesitate when I draw those hips. I know how they're going to fit in there. They just go in easy now. So you've shorthanded. You take from everywhere, and then you go, what works best for me? What's best for my sensibilities to get that fleshy form, that flow all the way through it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like I say, I talk a train, like a train.
Not in a bad way. Sometimes you need to. Sometimes you need to take a train.
You need to take a train. The Amtrak, my favorite. And I was trying to find a particular drawing that Marco had recreated, and he'd done it so well. Is this the study sheets? It is. Where is it?
If you guys are interested in all this book that you're seeing right here, you guys can find this at proko.com/Patrick Jones for 20% off right now during the Black Friday sale, running all the rest of this month.
Fantastic, Stephen.
Link in the description.
Amazing, amazing segue there. I can't find that picture. So let's see. Yeah, I'll give up looking in that. And of course, the wonderful Stan Prokopinko wrote the foreword for The Anatomy of Style too. The Power of Osmosis.
You're just collecting them for those forewords.
Ah, the forwards. So important to me. It's a historical document now.
I do like the idea of a forward, though. It does become this idea of the stamp of approval. As a
Yeah,
person reading like any sort of like a fiction, sci-fi book or anything, when
yeah,
there's some new author you've never read before, but on the dust jacket of the book, there's some stamp of approval from another author that you like.
yeah.
9 times out of 10, you'll pick up that book.
Yep. I love forwards. I think they're just a great way to also acknowledge another force in the world.
Hmm.
I approached Dan for that forward. He wrote it for me in a second. But you don't know unless you ask. The
It's
answer
true.
is always no if you don't ask. But don't
It's
bug
true.
people as well. It's always a disclaimer. Because I used to bug people and didn't realize until later. Well, you're young, you don't know that people are busy, and so I was a little. It took me a long time to ask Stan to do that, and then when it did, he just did it. I went, I should have asked earlier. You know, he's such a nice guy. Nibble defined
Let's
serratus.
see.
Yep, that's another. Could we even call that a mnemonic? I love it, but that's what I use all the time to find those serratus notches like that. Make
I
sure you
I
flare up too.
I think this one is Craig Smith is who this one is from.
Ah, yeah, Craig. Yeah, wonderful work there, Craig. So I'm all about rhythm too, chasing rhythms. So what we talked about earlier, where you don't want double bumps, we don't want a long rib cage like that, where the serratus are just here, and then the rib cage, because it just looks like growths. So you want to make a separation with those things. I do anyway. Excuse me, because sometimes they just look like that. So for me, it's always that, you know, a little bit of difference for the ribs, and there's intercostals in there too. There's muscles between the ribs. You know, when if you did eat meat or used to eat meat or whatever, you remember the wreck of ribs, and people are chewing on the middle of the ribs. That's the intercostal muscles, and the intercostal muscles can reshape the ribs to feel like this. So if it happens in nature, I want more of it. So I do that. I overdo the serratus in a different shape like that, and then the ribs in a different shape like that. But they're pretty similar. I just don't want that double bump thing going on. So this is from the Wizardry course. There's no doubt about that. Lovely job there. I would say one thing, I'm not sure who did this one. It might be Lucas. I don't know. But
Craig Smith.
oh, this is Craig. I
Mhm.
break the rules. I know that it looks like a broken leg, but I see people that have legs like this, and the dynamic quality of it is just off the charts for me. So I think if one person has this, then I can have it in any character I want. I want to get that. He is in a military pose. I remember making this military style because he is a soldier. But if you wanted to veer off this, the thing I'd do more often would be to lean that head forward. So like I say, there's a million ways to do this. Went off the charts there because I was looking down at my screen. Patrick's excuses. But that's what I would tend to do, you know. And you can almost imagine him coming alive by just stepping out, just feeling that, just that.
There's this
that.
thing. There's this one of the instructors on Proko. I believe it is David Coleman. He
Yeah,
has these lessons where he specifically has people draw from video as
yeah,
opposed to drawing in just from photos, because
uh
of
huh.
this idea of you being able to like see what the next step of something would be, what the
Oh,
next part of that movement is. And I think that's a really interesting exercise.
that is really interesting, and that comes into one of the ideas that I often think about because I love animation, and that's the persistence of vision, where
Mhm.
you always have the memory of the last frame, and so you've got to move an image now. 24 frames a second, 24 still drawings, let's say for animation a second, and you still remember the last one slightly, and therefore you've got movement. It's an incredible magic.
Mhm.
Uh, like for instance, I'll often for my class show that persistence of vision in real life. Can we do a full screen?
Yeah, yeah, I'm switching it over here for that. There you go.
So for persistence of vision, watch this pen. It's a solid pen, right? You see it? But if I do that, it's now a rubber pen. Do you see it? It's made of rubber.
Hmm.
So we're basically looking into the past. We're in the past, there it's a solid thing. So we're kind of seeing 24 frames a second. We're seeing what
Hmm.
that used to be. And so persistence of vision is a really good idea for me because they're inherent in the photographs is the problem, that there's only one frame and you're locked in there and all of your decisions are based on that one thing. And so just by its very nature, it's going to be a staid and wooden piece of work if you don't design off of it and think about, like, that was a great idea to draw from a video where you don't have that time. And that's why I like drawing from life, because the model moves all the time. And if you're stuck in that rigid formula where you're trying to copy, then you're always going to be in that world. You can't be a concept artist because you need the model there all the time. Whereas the models can't. That's why you put it all in one hit like this. Just put it all, get that flow in, and even if the model moves, the position of the model model's muscles are still kind of close to where they should be. And it's not that
Mhm.
hard to riff off of it. It's actually pretty easy. You can see me do it here. And then one side to the other is a big thing for me. This is the wizard end of the course. So this is the tougher lesson. With the wizardry course, we start so simple, Mr. T, Mrs. V, and we end up here at wizard level. If you dare to go there, you can end up doing this. And maybe you just want to work on the arm. So I just put the arm in there, draw that 100 times. And then you can basically break all the rules at the end of the day. You can do anything you want. I usually
Mhm.
put in the entire figure as a bunch of shapes. Here, I'm not doing that because I know I can do whatever I want once you've got the wizardry behind you. So you can see that we started over here with just the life of it. Get the life in. That's the main thing. Once I had that life, I just basically knew as long as the great trochanter is going to land here, I know that that's half and the head would be here. And I don't need to make it exactly half because I might want to lengthen those legs. But to be in that ballpark where this great trochanter is halfway from here to that foot, then I can go longer legs if I want, shorter legs if I want. But getting that flow in is the main thing. Oh, yeah. So there's the serratus. I think that's what I was looking for.
I do like.
Right.
So you said if people dare get to the end, they can do this thing.
Yeah.
Wolf Knightley in the chat says, "Oh, I dare." They've
You go,
accepted
Wolf.
your challenge.
You go, Wolf. Well, that's why he's got that name. When you've got a moniker like that, you got to live up to it. The hunting of the wolf's on. He's out for his prey. So you can see I'm putting in the serratus there, and then I'm going to veer off here for the intercostals. There they are
Mhm.
there, like that. So they're not ribs, but they go between the ribs, and it gives you all the authority to do anything you want. So there you go. That's the coming to the end of the wizardry course. That's the 17th potion. So each potion teaches you something new, and here we can get into the minutia. We just start up with basically a shape of a hand. I usually work with just the index finger and the little finger and then add the others in between. Otherwise, you end up with a big baseball glove if you're not careful. So
Yeah.
little tips like that all the way through.
Yeah.
Tons of them.
No, I think that's definitely a good one. People tend to get lost in the idea of rendering all of the fingers. Um,
Yeah.
there was one question, real quick. I wanted to make sure and get this one before we moved on because I think this would be a very easy one for me to personally to forget about.
Okay.
Jack Myers asked a thing from earlier. Patrick, you had mentioned that there were model packs from a certain person or a certain group that you had liked a lot
Yeah.
and worth getting. Do you remember that one? I think it was blue background.
Yeah.
I think they were alongside the actual drawn image.
Yeah. It was Obscura 25. They're on
Okay.
Proko. Like I said, I
Wait.
bought 2 professional packs off them at the minute, which I might use for my male fantasy course when it comes on. So yeah, they're
I'm gonna
really terrific.
I'm gonna drop
But
that link in the chat here for anyone who is interested in that.
yeah,
For anyone who's watching this as VOD, that is still in that chat, um, in the replay. But I'm also gonna put that on the screen here,
yeah.
just to make sure
And,
everyone can see that.
and just to make sure I'm not misleading anyone there, a professional pack is for someone like me that's teaching with that stuff. So it's actually quite expensive. But they're packs where you just draw along, you're not actually teaching with them, are so reasonable. They're unbelievable. I think for $8 or something, you can get a
Yeah,
pack.
these are yeah, it's $10 normally, so right now just $8.
Yeah, amazing. And there was that one particular model I thought was terrific. I think she's called Ang, ANG, something like that. She's a red-haired model. She's fantastic.
Hmm.
But yeah, really good stuff. It's always great to find a source of references that it's that good. All right, so I could start to wrap up here. I was just looking for this drawing that was
Yeah.
on the screen. So this is someone that's gone right to the end of the wizardry course because these are the last 2 drawings I do. 2 structural, and that's great. Put all your notes in there. Nicely done. The paper looks a little dry there. I'd get onto the newsprint. It's possible that it's newsprint that's dried out. So remember that too, if you get newsprint, which is for me for mileage, that you make sure you put it in a dark place. Otherwise, it does
Mm.
dry out. That was another one of my disclaimers when I was at the Proko offices, and Stan says, "You're going to draw?" And I says, "Yeah, sure." And Stan brought out a pad that I mean, it was a hard call. Was there any newsprint around? And he brought one out that was a little dry that he hadn't
Mm.
used for ages. And I was going, this is really grabbing the pencil here. And I could have moaned and groaned about it on screen, but I didn't. I just did bad drawings instead. So, that's my disclaimer.
No,
Those
I think you
drawings were,
should tell him next time. You say, "Yeah, Stan keeps trash paper in the studio."
yeah, Stan, next time I'm there, give me some fresh newsprint. But yeah, get the smooth stuff. If you get the archival stuff, it's just the same as dry paper. It's just pointless. It doesn't
Mm,
have that quality to it. You might as well use cartridge paper. So basically, the best surface that's the cheapest, next cheapest option is so photocopy paper, which is actually archival, but you're reduced to A4 or in America letter size, very
mhm.
small surface. So just be careful, keep your newsprint in the dark or it will dry out and it'll drag your pencil and you've lost that mileage. But yeah, beautiful stuff here. I think we're done on it. Everything else would
That's
just
yeah.
be superficial. Anything I would add to these drawings that are the copy mileage. There's that model there.
Yeah.
She's brilliant. Her poses are just so delicate and amazing. Wonderful. Okay. Any last
Yeah.
questions, Stephen? I'll take them.
I think. Oh, someone got one more in. Way to go, John. John Rodstad asked, boring question, but is Patrick using basic charcoal in all of his drawings seen in this video? Or like a charcoal pencil, anything in particular you would say about it?
Yeah, I'm using that 1710. For the finished drawings, I'm using a General's pencil, a General's soft, or a General's medium. I find the soft usually just go and break themselves. I take no responsibility. They just broke themselves. But the 1710, which is a Jeff Watts pencil, when I was taught, Jeff's such a nice guy. When I met Jeff, he was just so different.
Did you meet a bearded? Did you meet a bearded Jeff or a clean shaven Jeff?
He had a bit of beard going on there.
Okay.
There was definitely follicles. There was follicles protruding from chin. How deep it was, I don't think it was a big. Has he got a big blustery beard now or something?
He had a beard one of the last times that we saw him, so at like a live event or something, and then when he came here in person, and he's just a different man than the clean shaven Jeff. He just goes from being this like nice art teacher, he's like a fit guy, to just being this like Viking looking guy.
Oh yeah, he was great. I was a bit frightened of Jeff because I thought he was going to be bombastic. Because when he's on fire, when he's drawing, he gets so worked up on it. I thought, is this guy gonna, when he gets me, put me in a headlock? Because he gets, he gets so passionate about things, and he wasn't like that at all. He was a really nice guy. He was just listening to what I said. We were laughing along. Took me for a tour around the studio. Really lovely guy. Boy, can he draw? Can he draw?
Absolutely.
Oh Lord. So his pencil has great mileage in it because whether it's the best pencil in the world, I don't know. I haven't tested every pencil. I tried his Wolf Carbons. They were amazing. So there's amazing pencils out there. But what I liked about the 1710B Conte that he uses is it doesn't break so easily. And also it doesn't get so much grit in it. And that's why I like the General's pencils too. So I'm looking for pencils that have mileage in them, meaning that I can run with them for ages without having to sharpen them or they break on me. So that pencil, the 1710, gets a bit waxy for a finished drawing. So I like to use the Generals for the finished drawings. And I like the 1710 for quick sketches, which is what Jeff does all the time. So those two pencils are my mainstay now. Let's see if I'm using the 1710 here, I think, for that, because it's not a finished drawing. Yeah, that's the 1710. Oh yeah, you got the full screen on?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm using the 1710 there. And I just got a whole box of them. I usually go into the art store and get them because if they get delivered, then somebody's throwing them on the street and stuff.
That's definitely true. Yeah. You don't want the broken core on any of those things.
Yeah, they just break all the way through. And if you sharpen it once and it breaks, and you sharpen it twice and it breaks, it's broken all the way through.
Yeah, it's just going to keep happening.
It just keeps happening. And it's a $5 pencil. I hesitate to say because I don't want any, people coming to me and say, you blew the door off my microwave. But I put them in the microwave for 3 seconds just to get that boundary. I didn't say it.
Yeah, this is not pencil advice. We are not legally responsible should you do anything with a pencil in the microwave.
Basically, that is a nuclear bomb. It's fission. You got
You
that
said for
core.
3 seconds? Is that
Yeah.
like it?
Well, I put it in once for a half a minute. It blew the door off. So you don't want that. And it looked like an octopus died in there. It was black everywhere. So yeah, actually, I didn't say a thing. Leave it in the sun.
I really like this
Leave it on a
idea.
hot rock in Nevada. Leave it there, and it might just bind itself back together again. There you go.
I like it. No, again, none of this is recommendations for what you should do because we've put a safety warning on this. But Patrick
Safety
has
one.
done this before.
Yeah, and it did work before, and it didn't work before too. It blew the bloody doors off. We should have Michael Caine. Hey, blow the bloody doors off. We should get Michael Caine into that iconic speech. I'm using the generals here, I think. Yeah, there it is. There, generals. General soft is the best one if you can get it, and not to break. That's the main thing. But see how I can pull it back, rub it back, and it's basically like dry oil paints. I just love it. General, such a great company, American company. So you guys will have no trouble finding it. But I sharpen it.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those you unwrap the paper, and it's just
Oh, I
for me.
see.
Yeah, for me that's not good enough. I sharpen it as well, and that's when it breaks. So basically, they sell it with just a tiny little end to it, which is unworkable for me, for my
Yeah, you
style.
want more exposed core for that.
Yeah, so they sell them like most pencils are sold, just like that. You know, I mean that's no use to anybody. You can't use your gestural hand for that little
Yeah,
tiny. It's like the end of the rocket that they send into space and bring back in a parachute, isn't it?
this
Drop
is
it
just
back.
for this is your math homework pencil with
Yeah,
that kind of tip.
that's it. So we want that, at least that. And if you're Jeff Watts, this is why it's frightening me. So macho. There's a there's a Jeff Watts. There's a Jeff Watts. That's why I was frightened of him. I didn't want him to see the puny pencil lead I had in my pack when he had spent all day sharpening that big boy right there. No, he's a lovely guy.
uh, there was one. I think we'll do one other little one materials thing. So for
Yeah,
you, Felipe was asking what paper and what size do you use?
yeah. I've forgotten what it is because I've had it for so long that basically I bought a from the art store. I bought one of these little guys that has the clips on it. Put it
The
on the
drawing
side.
board.
The
Yeah.
drawing board. I put it on the side there because that's how I use it for landscape. And basically, what I did was I just measured it, and I can't remember what the measurement was, and ordered a ton of this
Hmm.
at that size. Was it possibly? Oh, I can't remember. I really can't. It's at least A2. So let's just go with A2 size.
Okay, that's
Hold
fair.
on. Hold on. A3, A2, A4, A3, A2. Yes. So it's twice the size of A3. I think that's what it is. So two A3 sheets would make that size. That's what I work with. You can basically see it. If I bring
Okay.
up, let's see. I like to have enough space around the drawing that I can just cut into the drawing at any point because I basically don't want my wrist. I don't want this wrist falling off an edge. And so I make sure that the drawing board is big enough to accommodate this all the time. So my hand is always on the surface. My
I
hand
see.
never really leaves the surface ever. It's always knuckles on, knuckles off, knuckles on, but there's always something just touching the surface so that I'm not tightrope walking on the surface ever.
Yeah. Have to pull out like a mall stick for this suddenly.
Yeah, you need a maul stick for oil painting, for instance, and that gives you back that idea that you're in contact with the surface in some way.
Hmm.
But yeah, definitely don't use it on drawing. I remember one of the critiques of one of my books was he never mentioned the fixative. It's because I don't use it. I don't use fixative at all unless the drawing's finished, and then I'll use it. But it doesn't mean you can't. And if you are smudging too much, you see what happens is if you use reworkable fixative, first of all, you can't move your drawing around as much as you would want to. And also, it trains you to be heavy handed because the reworkable fixative is holding the charcoal. So if you learn to get a lighter hand, then you don't need the reworkable fixative to hold it in place. And it makes you a more sensitive artist, a better artist. So I fix it at the very, very end. but it doesn't mean you can't. If you've got a finished drawing and it really is going all over the place, reworkable fixative is much better because at least
Mm.
you can still erase it. It's just going to take a little bit more to do it. So you can see what I do. I use a piece of paper under my hand. There. See that? I'll do that because I am using a heavy grip there. I'm doing some erasing. And I'm not erasing, by the way. I'm drawing with the eraser.
Yeah, it's very different.
Very different. I'm carving in with that eraser. That's a mono eraser there. Lovely little device, but it's only for
Absolutely.
details.
So I think that'll probably be it for the questions here. Jean Frederic Baldon, it looks like here in the chat, said, "So you're all digital." Like I was trying to bring up to, I don't know if they're going with the pun of the idea of digital, like digits for fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they were, I just want to call it out. That's a good one. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Um,
That's pretty good.
Patrick, is there anything that you want to say before I tell people where they can find these courses and these books again?
Yeah. Well, yeah. If that's such a got to Proko all the time, otherwise we disappear. But if you guys can join me on the Art Agents and go put
Mm,
likes on Instagram and things like that, just keeps me alive to
absolutely.
put more free stuff up there. So basically that. But apart from that, you can find me pretty easy. I think anyway. It might be because I'm narcissistic and I type my name in and it comes up as the first page. I don't know how algorithms work. Have I got Dunning Kruger, or if you type my name and the first thing comes up on a page for everyone? I have no idea. So I'm pretty easy to find for me because
Mm-hmm.
I do it so often. I got Alexa the other day, the little, because it was on half price on Amazon, and the
Mm-hmm.
first thing I says is, "Tell me about tell me about Patrick Jones, the artist."
Did you get you?
Yeah, it was such an
Okay.
ego trip. Yeah, she told me all
I
about me.
I could not do that. If I said tell me about Stephen Clark, it would not work. There's just too many freaking Stephen Clarks out there in the
Yeah.
world, man.
Well, sometimes also it's a lie because they said he made his fortune with white sneakers. I went, what? I've never worn white sneakers in my life. So there's a lot
Huh.
of misinformation out there. I don't know.
Maybe
I'd like to.
you're getting some sort of like a alternate reality feed. There's a Patrick Jones. There's a you who's exclusively
Yeah,
about Nike Air Force Ones somewhere.
but it's still me. I mean, they say my career as an artist, and then he made his fortune selling white sneakers. I did not. I've no,
Interesting.
I've no fortune. I've no white sneakers. A bit bizarre. Yeah, but I'm pretty easy to find. All right. Well, I'm good,
Yeah.
Stephen.
No, for anyone who
If there's
does want to go find out more about the podcast that Patrick had mentioned, there is this name here on the screen. And there's a link in the description to his YouTube channel. You guys should go follow him on the places all over the internet if you can't buy a course. But if you thought you couldn't buy a course yesterday or the day before or something like that, you're wrong. Because right now the courses are on sale on proko.com/Patrick Jones for 20% off for the whole rest of this month. You guys can find that. I'm going to put that link on screen. I had changed it earlier. But yeah, you guys can find that for nice and cheap right now for the whole rest of this month. I highly encourage you guys to do that. Patrick's courses, Patrick's books, and more are all fantastic. They'll teach you a whole bunch, and they'll teach you not just the things that Patrick intended to teach you, but something about yourself that'll be specific to you that you'll find along the way. And outside of counseling, what else are you going to do that? So pick something up, enjoy it, have a good rest of your guys' day or night, wherever you guys may be. And remember, we're going to have more streams coming up for the rest of this week and next week. Thank you so much for being here, Patrick. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much for coming in, everyone. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, anytime. Have a good one, everybody.
See you all.